Alright, you sexy bitches, let's do this. Oh yeah, I forgot I wasn't supposed to say cuss words in the first 5 minutes. Is that what it is? What's the rule? I'm not sure if that rule is actually enforced anymore. YouTube, don't say curse word in first couple minutes of stream. Stream. But we're gonna be playing some Old Republic and the new character that I started. We're going to Dromund Kaas. This is the homeworld, not the homeworld, this is the capital of the Empire, the Old Empire. And then also, I don't know, just kind of like reacting to videos and any kind of political or social slop that's going on today. Okay, yeah. I've been debating, I kind of want to go to watch that Hathaway 2 movie in theaters. Because I kind of want to support the franchise. I feel like it's the only science fiction fantasy franchise right now that I feel like is still kind of hitting it out of the park. Some of the other ones that I've grown up on that I've really enjoyed, like, have kind of lost their way a little bit, but maybe I'm just getting too old. That, and I think the visuals are really cool. It might be really cool to actually see in the theaters, so I might do that tomorrow. Okay, hold on a second. You don't need to censor yourself at the start of the stream. Thanks to upload advertiser-friendly guidelines, you can use strong profanity within the first 7 seconds of your content without impacting your ad revenue. Oh, well, I don't have ad revenue anyways. Strong profanity is now permitted when the opening 7 minutes. Mild swearing, words like crap and damn are categorized as mild profanity and are not restricted through the entire broadcast. While single swear words are allowed, using extreme profanity, frequent heavy swearing, or slurs can still result in demonetization or age restrictions. Oh, I don't care about age restrictions or demonetization at this point anyways, because I don't have monetization in the first place. But I thought it, like, influenced your discoverability, I guess. What the hell do I know, though, right? What the damn do I know? Is hell, is that considered a mild profanity, or is it considered sharp, severe profanity? Alright. So we want to find a new speeder for our homegirl here, and we also want to get a different lightsaber crystal before we head off to Dromund Kaas. Because we can't be showing up to Dromund Kaas looking all frumpy. We gotta, you know, gotta make a good first impression. Got to give everybody on Dromund Kaas a reason to try to mess with us. You guys ever, that ever happened to you? Like, sometimes I feel like, sometimes, not all the time, sometimes I could just sense that there's somebody, or maybe a few people in a particular space or environment where it's like, I just know they're gonna fuck with me. You know what I mean? And then they do, and it's like, I just know that they're not, what's the word? I don't want to say hater because it's kind of overplayed, but like, they just don't like something about my vibe or who I am or whatever, and I can just feel it. I can just feel the eyes on me, and I'm like, I know it's coming. I know they're going to try to start shit with me. The issue, to a certain degree, is that I'm the kind of person who doesn't really react too much to provocation. I'm very kind of even-tempered when it comes to that, and I think that makes them more upset because it's like they're looking for the reaction, and I don't give it to them, which is, honestly, as a bit of advice, that's the way to kind of handle those kind of things. But, yeah, I don't even, where did that come up from? I don't even know why I mentioned that. Oh, you know what? I could buy a speeder here at the space station. Holy crap, this guy's selling this for 1 billion credits? This isn't even all that cool. Like, why would you want to buy this for 1 billion credits? Must be some kind of weird money laundering thing going on here. I'm just kidding. I don't think you can. Money laundering is, well, I don't know. Maybe that's possible. Can you money launder with, you know, I'm kind of curious about this. Do people money launder using in-game currency? Yes, criminals actively use in-game currency and virtual assets to launder money, a process facilitated by law. I mean, I guess it makes sense because it's not regulated really, like who's tracking that, but like, that's just hilarious to me. Our hardcore criminal gang enterprise that's selling cocaine around the world is facilitating transactions through World of Warcraft. Alright. I want to see what the most expensive ones. So this is cool too, but like, really bro, you're trying to charge 750 million? Really? Oh damn, that one's super cool. Alright, do we give her, I feel like at this stage, from like a lore perspective, she's just an acolyte, she's just a Padawan. She hasn't mastered or gotten the status yet in order to have an actual live creature that she's riding on top of. She's got to have like a basic speeder bike. But what are we giving her? It's okay, it's not bad. Zerka Ranger. I kind of like. I don't mind this. I don't know what the point is of this whole thing in the back, but okay. Adeno Mantis. Roche Shkik. Shkik. How do you even pronounce that? Shkik. Shkik. Like I'm saying a curse word. This is, holy crap, what? This is kind of cool looking. The price. I wouldn't like go out of my way to buy one of these, but I feel like for the price, this is like a steal, is it not? It's kind of dope, no? I don't know. I almost feel like I should, just because it's like, when are you else going to get a deal on something like that? This is kind of growing on me. Maybe not in that color scheme, but it is growing on me. Those are okay. One's the Overcompensator 9000. No. Ambaz ZB7. The Tursa Capital. You know, it's simple and straightforward, but I kind of like it for that reason. It's like, this is just your standard fare speeder. Makes sense. If you're a young acolyte and you don't have a huge budget, you might go with something like that. Mirim Skink. Did I pronounce that right? Yeah, it's a skink. Rark. Okay. Ekis. Oh, these ones. I have one of these. Not this specific one, but one of the other ones. I don't like the curved front fins. They look a little weird. But there's a different version with like straight, sharp ones that looks pretty cool. Like this color scheme, but I've never been a super big fan of that speeder. Mirim Hyacinth. I like the colors on this. Something about the finish is nice. Oh, I like this one. I feel like I have this one for another character already. I like it though. I can see this one potentially being her speeder. Can I? Additional favorite slots are needed. How many favorites do I have on here? Whatever. Not that important. This is pretty dope too, but it's just so huge. You know what I mean? I don't know. Oh, I have this one. I feel like this is the best color scheme for it. Looks very sporty without being just kind of it's almost like a, is it Lotus Racing that runs with that color scheme, or is it Aston Martin? Is it Aston Martin or is it Ashton Martin? Or is it Aston Martin? Rark? Was it Hurdler? Yeah, Hurdler. Tyon SY5. Kind of cool. I like the color scheme, but I just don't feel like it's like, it doesn't scream Sith to me, you know? Anzam Glory. Ooh, I like the color scheme on this one too. This is very Jedi looking. Iraqi Hawk. So same deal, just different color scheme. I already looked at this one. Oh, why am I doing it this way? I don't need to keep closing this every time. I have one of these in a good old-fashioned red and white sport color scheme. Oh, this one basically, yeah. I have this on my smuggler character because I figure smuggler character is like very kind of like retro, like 70s or 80s kind of personality style and everything. So I felt like this looks like a hot rod from that era kind of thing. Like it just has that design language. I do like the one I'm looking at right now. I like the use of gradients on here. And if it was a different character, I mean, even with her, I don't necessarily. I mean, I could see it working, but I don't think I'll go for it. Did I look at this one? Okay, so this one's just a black version. Okay, I don't mind that. I like that. It's kind of a little bit too matchy, right? But it very much matches her. Miriam Kamen. Dasta. Titan. Have one of those. I think these ones they were giving out when you started the game a while back. It was like the one that they gave you as a promo. I have this one on another character. You know what? It kind of works for her though. I like it. I don't mind it. Lozen Razor? Ambaz Breeze. Razalon. I like these names. Oh, you know what? I have one of these in a different color scheme, but I kind of like this on her. What's the price range we're getting into? I probably don't want to spend... I definitely don't want to spend more than... Oh, this one is sick. It's not really her, though. It's not really what I'm going for with her character, but I like the color scheme on this. Holy crap. I feel like I'm going to buy it and just give it to one of my other characters. That one's a nice color scheme, too. Oh, there's so many good options now. Anzab Renegade. Dasta Colossus. Tobis Alderon Cruiser. Nah. Dart Frog. The Nexu. Razalon FC3. It's a beefy sucker. I like this, but not necessarily for her. I don't necessarily know what I'm going for specifically. It's not bad. Kind of see it. The simulator, advanced simulator, Zerko Roundabout. Oh, Runabout. Iraqi Falcon. I kind of like the Iraqi Falcon. It's just a matter of color. Which color are we going with? This color looks a little bit run down. Don't really feel like it fits her. I don't think she's going to be like the most... This looks like a vape cartridge. Like one of those little, like tobacco vape things. What do they call those things? It's a, I don't know what the name brand is called. This is an interesting design, but yeah, not really. Not necessarily going for it. $75. Okay, we're getting a little bit high now. I don't want to be spending too much more than this. Tempest, a little much going on there. Oh, I forgot about these. I have this on my other character. I like that. Those aren't bad either. This is like very straightforward, good old-fashioned. It kind of works for everything. Zerka Commander. The colors on this are very interesting looking. The way it catches the light is really cool. You got kind of like that bronze on top of like a matte, like slate blue, like a darker blue. I almost want to get it just because I like the design, but that's not really the point. Similar thing here, except it's black on like a bronze. On or a bird. You know what? I didn't even look in. I should look in my cargo hold because I think I actually already have some mounts that are in there that I could use. And there's no point in buying a new one. Did this take me back a page? I don't think so. I'm starting to get to a point now. Oh yeah, we're at 300,000. It's kind of ridiculous. Nah, I don't want anything at this price range. Let me just double check, because I think I know what I'm going to go for. But let me see if I have anything in my cargo hold that's a little bit better. Let's get some background noise. What was I going to react to? Internet versus $1.28 lunch? Okay, what are these people talking about?
There's been a huge debate sparked online after a clip of billionaire Kevin O'Leary went viral, where he talks about people making $70K a year ordering lunch for $28, citing it as stupid. And some Twitter users took to respond by saying that lunch
Making 78,000 a year and you spend $28 on lunch? I feel like it depends on where you live. Where I live in the Bay Area in California. It's expensive, right? So like I'm not going to want to spend a lot of my my money on eating out, especially not at that price range, right? All the time. Every now and then's fine, obviously. It kind of goes without saying. Wait, can I buy these? Because this one looks dope. I don't even remember this being an option. I don't need like some kind of vendor token or something? Because I might just go with this one right away. Okay, hold on. I'll figure it out in a minute here. But, yeah, so, I mean, at that price, it's a lot. But if you live in somewhere that's, like, you're making 75K, but you live in somewhere that's, like, low cost of living, I mean, I think it's probably fine. You can probably afford to spend a little bit more on eating out if you wanted to. Not that you should necessarily. I mean, it's up to you. At the end of the day, the whole point of working is that you can make a living. And if part of what you want to do, or part of what makes you happy, part of what you enjoy out of living is maybe like eating out, then go for it. And yeah, the budget do so, go for it. I will say I think 28's a lot. Even out here, I feel like that's a lot for a single meal. Like, my company will take us out to eat often. And usually we keep it under $20. And again, like I live in the Bay Area, it's an expensive area. But usually we're able to have lunch for less than $20 per person, right? So like, I don't know where you're spending $28 on the regular to eat lunch. That seems kind of wild. Like even out here, if you were to go to like In-N-Out or something, like it's going to cost you like what? $10 maybe, somewhere around that area. Maybe 11, maybe 12. If you go to like not a fast food restaurant, but like a little bit more higher end, I don't know what you would call it, like not sit down necessarily, but like what's that place in the middle where it's like it's the kind of restaurant where you can sit down, but a lot of people also order it out and like take it out to go, and it's not exactly like fast food, but it's not also necessarily like a fancy, I don't know what you would call that, but like in that range, probably like $15, $16, like that would be pretty regular, I think. Alright, so, oh, this kind of works for her. This thing's kind of crazy. Look, I don't even remember having this thing. I can probably sell this for a decent chunk of change. What is this? Complimentary Money Starfire Experience Boost. Oh, you see. And that is just god-awful ugly. We don't have anything else better than these two, right? I guess not. Alright, I think I know what I'm rocking with. The last place I'll check is that there should be a speeder vendor in here somewhere, so we'll find that. But let's see what Kevin
lunch just
O'Leary
costs
has to say.
$28 now, and they have to eat.
I gotta say, Kevin O'Leary's got to be like one of the most contemptible, like most obnoxious, kind of, I don't know, self-righteous. I don't know what the word I'm looking for exactly, but he's just like one of the like. Just, especially for like a rich person, one of those people that like looks down on everybody else, and just obviously his politics and stuff are also really retrograde. Just one of the most contemptible people. And he's not even like charismatic or funny, you know, to kind of balance it out. He's just kind of a miserable ass.
With others pointing out how much cheaper it is to eat at home instead of ordering DoorDash every meal. Taylor Lorenz jumped in.
Oh, I see. If you're ordering DoorDash, then yeah, I can see how that comes out to 28, because then you're paying for the delivery fee, right? I mean, let me think about this for a minute. I mean, if you can avoid DoorDash, sure. If you pay for the subscription service, I don't know what the subscription service costs.
Anonymity, deception. These are your tools.
But like, I could
Trust
see,
no one.
I could see it being affordable, depending on like what you do. Like maybe you're somebody who works from home, and again, like obviously it's cheaper to cook your own food, right? But if you work from home, I kind of feel like if you want to order out because you're like you're in the zone, you're working and stuff, and it's like you're making money, right? And you just want to order something and have it delivered to you so that you don't have to like stop what you're doing in order to like you know, make food or drive somewhere. Like, yeah, go for it. You know, if you make enough money to justify it, right? And that would probably just be for your lunch, and then you'd be making your own dinner, I guess, or maybe going out for dinner or whatever it may be. And especially if you have the subscription, like I'm kind of curious, what is a DoorDash subscription cost? $0. So you don't pay delivery fees, but I mean you are in a roundabout way because you're paying monthly. So monthly you're paying 10. That actually works out, right? Because if you are, well, let me think about this for a minute. Unlimited free delivery on eligible orders that meet the minimum subtotal, $12 or more. Look for green check mark. Okay. I'm guessing there's probably a lot of stuff that isn't covered by this, though. I'd have to guess, because for $9 a month, this actually seems like kind of a steal, right? Or annually, if you're doing $100 a year, 96, so you're saving a little bit. At $8 a month, like let's pretend that you work from home, let's say, and you order delivery every day for lunch. And so you're spending, like, what is your typical, oh man, and if you're a student, $5 a month. But like the typical delivery fee, what is the typical delivery fee for DoorDash? So it can range from $2 to $9, so let's call it like $5. You're saving a hell of a lot of money, right? Because you're doing like 5 times 5 times 25 times 4 is 100. Yeah, you're saving like what, $80, $90 a month on delivery fees. This would be worth it, honestly. I mean, I don't know what qualifies under this that has the green check mark or whatever, but yeah, I mean, if you're working a decent job, you work from home, you don't want to get up to, you know, make food or whatever, you want to stay in the zone, like, yeah, sure, whatever, fuck it, go for it. I think that's reasonable. It's not a big deal. Again, if you're like super poor and everything and you can't afford these things, like that's another story, but you shouldn't be eating out for sure. But like, you're making $75,000 a year and you live somewhere where the cost of living is not super crazy, then, you know, fuck it, go for it. I don't really see what the big deal is.
To say that most people don't have time or skills in their day to actually cook meals, thus they are forced to order in, and others just said that this is Gen Z entitlement. But there's lots to get into, so let's just jump in. Welcome to the internet versus $28 lunch. It starts when a quickly post this clip with the caption, Kevin O'Leary says Gen Z is financially cooked when people making 70K a year.
I'm curious too, because people say stuff like this a lot, but like, they constantly lecture people on like, oh, don't go out and get you know, you wouldn't be poor if you weren't ordering Starbucks every day or going out to eat every day. And it's like, well, you know, does anybody actually bother to reference what are the actual stats on that? Like, what percent of Gen Z orders DoorDash regularly? Okay, 63 to 65 regularly use third-party food delivery apps. For DoorDash specifically, the platform holds about 33% consideration rate among the demographic. That's interesting. Never heard this term before. I'm assuming this is like some kind of marketing demographic term. Consideration rate is a marketing metric that measures the percentage of your total audience or reach that actively engages with your brand. Oh, I see. Okay. Up to 40% of Gen Z reports ordering food delivery apps at least once a week. Okay, so once a week though, Is that big of a deal? Because they make it sound like these people are ordering meals constantly off of DoorDash. If you're ordering once a week and it's only 40%, so not even the majority of people are doing this, like, is this really the big deciding factor on whether or not people can afford the cost of living? It doesn't really sound like it. What percent of Gen Z orders? Well, actually, let's include millennials in there. I think we used to catch flack over this too. People under, where do they cut these things off at? People under 35, I think. 35 order Starbucks every day. National, so millennial and Gen Z make up over half of Starbucks customer base. Only about 5 or 6% overall order for the cafe daily. Like, yeah, see, like, this isn't even a real, like, big issue. This doesn't describe why most people are going to be having issues with the cost of living, but it gets presented so often in the media. It's one of those things that goes unchallenged. No one really questions it, you know?
A year are spending $28 on lunch.
Can't stand it when I see kids that are making 70 grand a year spending $28 for lunch. I mean,
how out of touch do you have to be to think that it's regular for kids to be making 70K a year? Like, here, let's look this up. Oh my god, I just started Steam. I didn't mean to. Oh no, and I crashed freaking the Old Republic, of course. Okay, we'll reboot it right now. Okay, what was I asking? I wanted to know... Oh yeah. What's the right way to look this up? What percent or millennial and Gen Z income brackets? Maybe income brackets in 2025. So median individual earnings. So the median is between 33 to 40K for Gen Z. This isn't anywhere close to 70K a year. This is like half of that. Let me log in real fast. Hold on to SWTOR. 0.2.5. Okay. And then, oh, that's between 16 and 19. Oh, okay, I see. And then between 20 and 24 is about 40K a year. Only the top 10% are making basically over 100K a year. Okay, for millennials, 30 to 45, the median earnings. So even millennials, the average or the median, they're not even making, they're just making shy of 70K a year. 25, 35 median. And then the top 1% can range from 170,000 to 210,000. Okay. Interesting. All right, but yeah, but so you get my point. Like, this dude's so out of touch, and like he does this thing where he's basically always like lecturing young people and other people. Everybody else is doing everything wrong and everything, and then like he's kind of just like making up stats to make it sound like the average person is way more irresponsible, or I don't know. What's the word? What's the opposite of frugal? I was gonna say flagrant with their finances than they actually are.
That's just stupid. It's just, think about that in the context of that being put into an index and making 8 to 10% a year for the next 50 years.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you could say that about anything, right? Any amount of money that you spend on anything in life can be spent, you can be put in an index, right? But like at the end of the day, you have to live your life. Like you can say, for example, why are you going to buy a house for, I don't know, $300,000? Why don't you buy a house that's $100,000 in the hood? You could be spending that money every year in an index fund. Why would you have a child? You could be spending that money in an index fund. Like, yeah, you could say that about everything. But again, at the end of the day, and sometimes I think these super rich people don't understand this because they have fuck you money and they have enough money to splurge on all the things that they want in life and then have so much money that they could spend on investment that it doesn't really, like, they can't relate to the idea that for average people, a significant amount of their income is going to go to them just living life. And if your solution is always going to be like, oh, well, you shouldn't spend any money to live your life because it should go to like index funds and retirements and everything. And it's like, okay, well, what's the point of fucking living? Like, congratulations, you're gonna have a retirement fund at the end of your life that's gonna be massive, but you're too old to enjoy it. What's the phrase that's like youth is wasted on the young? And the concept behind that phrase is like, youth don't really always get to enjoy all of the finer things that a lot of older people get to. When you're old enough to actually afford the experiences, like you're old enough to actually travel, and you're old enough to go to all the music venues that you want to, and the music festivals, and you're old enough to splurge on eating out and clothing and cars and all those things, right? Not that every old person is rich. I'm just saying, typically your earnings and everything are going to increase with age. So by the time you're actually old enough to afford those things that make your life more interesting, more enjoyable, more fun, like you're too old to really enjoy them. You don't have the same stamina, you don't have the same energy. Your friends are all busy and they're working. Your 20s, if you're a young person, I always say this and I'll say it again. If you're in your 20s, remember this time period of your life, no matter what anyone else tells you, this time period of your life is a unique time period you'll never ever get back again. It's a time period where you're still like, you're old enough to have autonomy, but you're still young enough that you can make mistakes without it like permanently damaging your entire life. Obviously, there are some mistakes that you can make, like maybe getting pregnant too young or getting into a car crash where you lose, half of your body or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, but within reason, there's a lot that you can do and still make mistakes, and you still have the rest of your life ahead of you, right? Your friends are also in a time in their life where they don't have jobs, they don't have children they have to take care of. They have the freedom as well, like you do, to like spend time together and do things together and make mistakes together and explore things together. Obviously, you should be mindful of the future that you're building toward and be responsible, but also just keep in mind, because a lot of these old people, they won't tell you this part of the story, which is that those years of your life you'll never get back. And those are years of your life that you should spend exploring, enjoying the relationships that you have with your friends, and and getting the most out of that unique time period in your life. Okay.
You won't find a better bargain.
And USS Patriot replies, to boomers, the problem is you're spending too much on lunch.
Now, on the other hand, though, when some people make recommendations like this, like, oh, you shouldn't spend any money on Starbucks or eating out because, whatever, right? On the other hand, you do get a lot of people who will reflexively strike back with like, oh, well, people should be able to, they don't have time to make food, and nobody has, can afford to eat healthy and all that. It's like, no, you're going in the opposite direction of like kind of overcompensating and being kind of reactive. Like, there's a healthy medium in the middle there where you should be able to enjoy your life and spend money on things that really kind of matter to you and you enjoy and everything. But at the same time, you still want to keep it within reason and live within your budget, right? It just everything in moderation. I don't know why we have to have such hyperbolic extreme statements these days.
Instead of asking why the restaurants are charging $28 for lunch in the first place. And Shane says, no, you simple. The question is, why are you going to a restaurant at lunch? Pack your own food or go to 7-Eleven. What the
7-Eleven? Why 7-Eleven? It's like, oh, you shouldn't be eating out, but actually you should be going to 7-Eleven. Like, I guess I imagine the 7-Eleven might be cheap, but I have to imagine that food's probably really not very good for you, right? I don't think I've ever eaten food at from a 7-Eleven just because it always looks nasty. Like, they have like hot dogs and they have like greasy pizza and I think wings, I guess, maybe? No, thank you. I'm good.
You know how much a tuna sandwich from 7-Eleven costs these days?
Ooh, gross.
Out of touch asshole. Sam.
Bro, why do you want to get a freaking tuna sandwich from 7-Eleven? We don't have to act like that. Those are the only options that you have there. You can, and you know what? Meal prep. I haven't been very good about this myself, but honestly, it's because since I started this job takes us out to lunch almost every day, and so I just haven't really needed to. But there was a time period before I had this job when I was working at another company where I had meal prep all the time, and it was easy, right? I mean, it depends on like what you are going for, obviously, but I'm the kind of person that I can make a sandwich. It doesn't have to be a tuna sandwich. I would just get, bread, get a sandwich meat, honey ham, Black Forest ham, whatever it may be. And some people might say, oh, that's not the best type of meat to have. I don't care, right? It's better than probably eating out at 7-Eleven every day, right? Like, you don't have to go crazy with the nutrition or anything, but have a sandwich. I'd have like me personally, I'll buy the salad mix because I don't want to sit there and cut it up and everything. That's one of those things where it's like, if you know that maybe you're not the kind of person that has the patience to sit there and make fancy meals every day for your lunches, like do something that's a little bit reasonable. Like I've given given advice from family members of like, oh, you should make your own salad because they make their own salad. And I'm like, I don't want to sit there and chop up lettuce and all the other shit. Like I'm just going to buy the spring mix at the store. And what I'm going to do is on Sunday, I'm going to get my Ziploc bags, and I have reusable ones. Okay. Just don't freak out. I know you guys, oh, you're ruining the environment with Ziploc. I have reusable ones that I wash and I use. I fill them up in there. By the way, thing that I learned, put a paper towel in there so it could absorb the moisture, keeps it a little bit more fresh, lasts a little bit longer. I'd make a few of the sandwiches, put them in the those reusable Ziplocs, make a few of those salads, throw them in there. I'm a freak. I'm a fucking freak, my guy. I would take those salads, I'm talking about a spring mix, out of the little tub or whatever, put them in there. I don't even eat it with dressing. I pull that shit out of the Ziploc and just feed it into my mouth. I just scarf it down like I'm Popeye eating spinach. People used to look at me at work like I'm weird and everything, but it didn't really matter to me. It wasn't too big. So I do that, have some berries or some yogurt, and then maybe like some carrots or something like that, and I'm trying to think what else. But anyways, you get the idea, right? You don't have to have tuna sandwiches. And even freaking 7-Eleven, like does 7-Eleven, what do they sell there? I'm kind of curious now. 7-Eleven lunch meals? What do they got? Bro, why are you doing tuna sandwiches? They got freaking Italian subs and turkey. Actually, you know what? I didn't know they had this doesn't look too bad, actually. Why are you doing tuna salads or tuna sandwiches? What a freak, dude. That's gross. They make it look so good here. It probably doesn't look as good in there, but like, hey, you know what? This actually isn't so bad. I didn't really think they had this kind of thing going on there. A little parfait. That sounds good. All right. Anyways, moving on.
Thorne quotes the post by saying, "This dude literally owns a restaurant that charges you $12 for fries, in case anyone was wondering." And Khonshu replies, "What is that supposed to imply?"
Well, look, I mean, the thing is, again, like, just going off in the opposite direction, like, you don't have to eat at fancy restaurants. Like, if you want to make the case that, hey, you know what, I work a job, I don't have the time and energy to do it, like, oh, okay. But then, of course, pick somewhere that's a little bit more in your budget then. You don't have to eat at the fanciest, nicest restaurants. Like, no shit. Who cares that Dennis O'Leary charges $12 for fries at his restaurant? The only people that are visiting his restaurant are other rich losers who are just visiting places that are expensive because they're expensive. Like, who cares, right? He caters to those kinds of weird losers. Just eat at a place that's more in your budget. And there's plenty of places that are probably like that. Or make your own food at home. Meal prep at home. It's not a big deal.
He has a business that caters to people who can afford to spend $12 like that. But Kev...
Or, you know what? Alternatively, go buy like the little instant meals or whatever. Do the little teriyaki bowl things that you can microwave. Or what else do they do nowadays? Like, there's those meal services. I mean, I don't know how expensive those are. I imagine you could, in the long term, you probably still save money doing one of those meal things where they deliver, instant meals or whatever to your house than it would be to eat out every day. Like, there's options there. We don't have to, again, we don't have to pretend it has to be one extreme or the other.
That is implying that someone who likely isn't in a financial situation to be spending $28 on lunch shouldn't. Many people in both frugal and rich backgrounds chime in the comments to voice cheaper alternatives that they practice. Hell, man, people are even taking pictures of their alternatives. And Sam says, "I didn't say he was wrong, but it's also a red herring for the actual financial issues young people are facing. All the replies are people who see the tweet at face value versus people who see the bigger picture." Alex Reimer quotes the post by saying, "I love this trick from baby boomers. Make things insanely unaffordable and do not raise workers' wages. Then complain that young people spend too much money on frivolous activities." So,
okay. I do agree that wages should be higher, I think, for the average worker and stuff. I have long been in favor of increasing minimum wage. I want to repeat this as many times as possible because I'm trying to get it to be a national talking point conversation. We should talk about minimum wage tied to the local cost of living and the rate of inflation. I don't want to hear this stuff about, oh, we need a national 15, national 20. No, okay. We don't have to pretend that we're stupid. We don't have to pretend that we don't have we have the technology. We could do, wages tied to the local cost of living. We have the data for that. There's websites that will tell you what the local cost of living is in a certain place if you ever want to like try to move somewhere. So yeah, we should raise the wages, right? But at the same time, you also don't have to buy lunch every day, and especially at the most expensive places possible. You can do something that's a little bit more realistic, okay? Oh, I was going to look up something. It doesn't matter.
But he's like eating lunch. And T-Ball Knower says, bingo. Lunch specials at these same restaurants costed like $12 to $15 when I was a young professional about 15 years ago. And Alex is saying,
Yeah, sure, 15 years ago, but bro, like how much have the wages increased since that time period? Like, again, I'm not going to pretend that wages have kept up, I think, with the way that I would like to see them myself, right? But let's not pretend that, you know, when people say, oh, gas used to cost a lot less, 20 years ago, and it's like, yeah, but you also get paid more today. Food used to cost less 20 years ago. Yeah, but you get paid more today. Like, as long as these things are scaling appropriately with each other, then it shouldn't be a super big deal. It's when they're not really scaling well with each other.
You can always pack lunch, but it's nice to get a break. Gotta leave the office for something. Maybe.
Yeah, or like, hey, here's the thing. Like, if you don't feel like it's realistic for you to have the energy, have the time to make food every day, then, try to, like, you can kind of wean yourself. Maybe you tell yourself, okay, 3 days of the week I'll eat out, but 2 days of the week I'm not going to, or the other way around, or whatever it may be, right?
Coffee, but even that is now $7 to $8 most downtown places. And Jim says no, that's for a fancy dessert drink. A 16-ounce black coffee, like a Boomer's bought, even at Starbucks, is around $3.50. Bobby quotes the Kevin O'Leary post by saying, if you spend $0 on lunch every day and starve yourself, you could be saving $7,280 a year. That's an
Yeah, so obviously that's one extreme, but we don't, again, not to go on one extreme or the other.
Used Honda Accord in 5 years. And Danny Can Talk replies, the fact that you go with another consumption good for your example rather than an investment explains a lot. And Bobby says that is precisely the point. In the past, wages were high enough to...
I also don't like in the past couple years, I feel like it's a consequence of kind of how lopsided the power structure in the United States has become, and the distribution of income and the cost of living, that this whole like hustle culture and investment culture, I think it's a positive thing for young people, especially compared to the past, to be more cognizant of, investing and thinking about investing, and, trying to hustle to a certain degree. Right, but again, at the end of the day, I just feel like sometimes we get away from this idea that like the whole point of your life is to live it. If you're not living your life because everything has to be min-maxed all the time and you're hyper, worried about all those things, like I don't know. It just seems so stale. It seems so robotic after a certain point. We're not robots. We have to enjoy life a little bit.
To give workers the ability to purchase consumption goods, but inflation and money printing destroyed the value of wages. So now people would have to penny pinch for years to purchase the same goods. And Danny says, there are hundreds of people explaining to you that it's your fault you're broke, and you will refuse to hear a word of it. Things will never improve for you, and you will never look inwards to see why. And Bobby says, buy the S&P 500 is not a solution to money printing destroying the value of wages. In fact, the people in my replies are only giving that advice because they are aware that the government is printing money and destroying said wages.
That's also a very overly simplistic way of looking at things. Sometimes it makes sense for the government to print money, for example, during COVID, right? Because the alternative, nobody talks about what the alternative is. The alternative is the economy shuts down or you have massive impacts. So there's two scenarios here. Number one is we don't do anything about the pandemic. We had, I think, what was in the United States, like let's look this up actually. How many people in the US died from COVID? 1.2 million people died from COVID. Okay, so if we didn't do anything, understand that number's even higher than 1.2 million. And then again, those people missing from the economy have economic impacts themselves, because now you have reduced productivity from people that are not in the workforce, or actually not even and you have reduced spending from those people. Well, maybe, I think you probably do. I think the velocity of money probably decreases. You have decreased spending because those people they're not pouring money into the economy, doing purchases, buying goods and services. So that has economic impact. If we didn't stimulate the economy, but we still had, lockdowns and everything in order to deal with the pandemic, then you have businesses going out of business. You have people that are going out of work that have anything to support them. You have people that are now going homeless. You have people that are going into massive debt, right? Like that's not a realistic solution either, right? So you do stimulus. It's, hey, we're going to try to reduce the spread. We're going to try to support you guys while we're doing so. We know that this is going to cause inflation down the line, right? But we are understanding that there's a trade-off that we have to make in association with. We don't have an ideal scenario where we get the best of all worlds. We have to choose. We have to pick which poison that we go with. So sometimes the spending is, necessary, and sometimes it even generates growth. There's a lot of people who don't understand this. They think any kind of government spending is bad. I feel like Caleb Hammer is kind of this mindset. I know he gets brought up in this video. It's funny because I think he thinks he's like a genius or whatever, but I don't think he actually understands the concept of velocity of money. He talks about personal finance. These are macroeconomic concepts. Velocity of money and marginal utility. I feel like it's something that I've never heard him talk about it, but it's hard for me to imagine he doesn't know what marginal utility is. If he does, he pretends like he doesn't. So velocity of money, marginal utility, and economic multiplier effect. So it is possible for you to spend money from the government. You have to remember, by the way, right? Money from the government. People act like you give money to the government and it burns and it disappears and evaporates. It's not true. It goes back into businesses out in the economy. If the government is contracting out construction workers, those construction workers are making money. Those construction workers are going to spend money in the economy at grocery stores, which then goes into the pockets of the grocery store workers, who then spend their money in other places, right? And it circulates in the economy. A healthy economy has a relatively high velocity of money, meaning there's a lot of economic activity going on via the exchange of money to purchase goods and services, which then stimulates other people who get paid in those businesses to go out and spend their money in other places, which stimulates the economy of that business and so on and so forth. As long as we're all doing that, we are collectively like growing. The growing tide lifts all boats, right? So it's possible for the government to spend money, but it's generating more economic output on the other end, and in which case you're not really actually deflating. It's not actually a deflationary effect in that case. But it just comes down to like, how that money's being spent. So for example, right, this is something I think a lot of people, especially like libertarians, don't even want to hear this, right? If I remember correctly, I believe actually that public spending has a high economic multiplier effect. Does public spending have a high or low economic multiplier? Okay, it could be either high or low, fair enough, depending primarily on economic conditions, how the money is injected, and marginal propensity to consume. Generally, fiscal multipliers range between 0.5 and 2, meaning $1 increase in spending shifts GDP by that same dollar amount. So ideally, you want to have at least one, right? So that way, for every dollar that you're spending, you're keeping parity. You're generating $1 of GDP. Is that correct? Am I thinking about that the right way? I might not be, but either way, you're going to get the concept. If it's 2, right, then you're generating $2 for every $1 you spend. How does that happen, right? Learn about economics. This is a conversation that I never hear like right-wing conservative, fiscal conservative, libertarian people talk about. It's like their entire ideology around economics doesn't have this concept of economic multiplier or velocity of money. To be fair, people on the left, like socialists, communists, those people, like they don't talk about economics in an intelligent way either. I'm keeping it real. I never hear people on the left or the right really talk about economics in like a holistically intelligent way. And hey, you know what? To be fair, too, people in the center don't either. It's just one of those things. Nobody really talks about economics in an intelligent, nuanced way. So, yeah, but anyways, you get the point. So some public spending, some spending by the government has a high economic multiplier. Some of it has like a lower. Okay, let's look this up. What is a good economic multiplier? Not for public spending, just for in general. I want to know. Between 1.5 and 2.5. Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, as long as some of this public spending is going to fall in that range, and that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing.
And Danny says, the government is certainly making you poorer than you would otherwise be. But
no,
so is
see, that's an
spending
overly
$28
simplistic
on
way of
lunch.
understanding
Sean
it.
McCarthy quote tweets the Kevin O'Leary clip by saying, lunch just costs $28 now. Are they not?
Wait a second. Did I not pull that? I thought I just pulled that money out. What the hell?
supposed to eat? And Powell says no. You buy cheap groceries and make your own lunch and bring it to work. The fact that you're confused by this proves his point. And Sean says groceries aren't cheap anymore. And Abe returns and says groceries are expensive. Individual lunches you make from those groceries are still not even close to $28. You are the reason why there's so little empathy left for...
That is worth mentioning too, that for a lot of young people, even groceries themselves can be expensive. I was there at one point, right? I had to work and go to school at the same time when I was trying to go through college. And it was hard for me to make ends meet. And I didn't eat out like, as much as I do now, I guess, but I bought groceries a lot, and I made groceries at home, and I shopped at the cheap grocery. I was not going to Trader Joe's. I was not going to the fancy places. I was going to the shitty fucking Food Max places, okay? But that's what I could afford. And even then, like, I had a hard time making ends meet. I made it work. Don't get me wrong, right? But, it is worth noting, and it is true that there are going to be a lot of young people starting out their careers or just trying to work part-time to make it through college or whatever, who even for them, even groceries are going to be... it's going to make a big dent in their total income for the month.
Poor people, because you're not poor. You're just and you deserve what you get. Nicholas J. Stelzner says, a Chipotle burrito costs $15. Ground beef is $7 a pound. Inflation is financially crippling Gen Z. Once again, an out-of-touch rich boomer is lecturing young people. I replaced my daughter's wipers today. I went to Advance Auto Parts and installed them on my own and still spent $71. Inflation is completely out of control. I was able to change my oil for like $20 in the early 2000s.
Yeah, because the price of oil and everything else has gone up. Yes, of course, but it also depends. I mean, it depends on your size of your car too. If you're out there, if you're a young person that's trying to make ends meet and everything, just keep this in mind. The type of car that you buy, not only the fuel consumption from like the MPGs. If you get a truck, obviously it's going to consume more than a sedan. Get a sedan. You're starting out and everything, and you're having a hard time affording things. Just get a sedan. Yeah, it's fine. It works out. It works for what you need it for the time period that you're trying to make ends meet. But also the other thing about that too is that when you change the oil, if you're running like a little 4-cylinder versus like a big beefy V8 or a V6 on a truck, the amount of oil that you are putting into that vehicle is less. It requires less. And I think at a lot of oil change places, I think that the rate that they quote you or that you'll see online is basically the rate up to 5 quarts. And then if your car needs more than 5 quarts, they're going to charge you more for each additional quart that they put in or whatever. So for example, my truck, I have a Tacoma, it costs more because how many quarts does it take? But you can't just do the standard 5. How many quarts? 2018 Tacoma V6. So yeah, 6.1, 6.2. So they charge me a little bit more because they have to add on another one. So, but let's look at, for example, a 2018 Honda Civic quarts of oil. 3.7. So there you go. And then the other thing too is they'll oftentimes try to upsell you on like higher quality engine oil. Again, if you're just trying to make ends meet and everything, I don't think you need to buy the expensive oil that they're going to try to upcharge you on. As long as it meets the like the regulation standards for oil, just get whatever the budget one is. Again, as long as it's meeting those standards, which it should. I think any like professional, reputable engine oil changing place they're gonna have to only like supply your vehicle with, because it's a liability for them, right? If they don't give you engine oil that is properly rated, it's going to be a reliability for them. Here's another interesting about oil, if you're not aware and stuff. You can actually mix different types of oils when you have like 0W30, 10W20, 5W, whatever, right? You can mix these together. You can mix them like you'd mix I don't know, stuff in water, soda and mix Dr. Pepper and Coke, right? You can do that kind of thing. But, ideally, of course, this is like if let's say you're in a bind and for whatever reason you can only find oil that isn't the exact oil type that your vehicle typically goes for, you can mix in the other kind, right? There might be, I shouldn't say there might, I'm pretty sure that there is a limit to that. Like you can't just put in, for example, like these are viscosity ratings. So try to think here for a minute. Because I'm trying to think of what to type in here to even like prompt this question. Can you, if I ask this question, it might give me details. Can you mix oil types? Yes, you can safely mix different motor oil brands and types in an emergency. However, it's not ideal for long-term engine health. Synthetic versus conventional. You can mix synthetic and conventional. Viscosity. You should try to match the weight. 5W30 versus 10W40. While mixing weights won't instantly destroy your engine, it temporarily changes the oil's thickness, which may affect performance. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying there. So in a bind, you can mix in a different oil, like engine oil type. You want to keep it within reason. So if your car is rated for 5W30, like maybe don't go with like 0W. What would be an extreme one? Like 0W. 0W8, is that a thing? Yeah. But like I don't even think they really like these are hard to find anyways. If you're at like a gas station and all they stock is whatever, you know, 5W whatever, like chances are they're not going to be stocking 0W8 anyways. Like the kind of oil that you're going to find at like a little gas station or a little mini mart is probably going to be like your typical range of oil weights. You're not going to find like 0W8 or something, but like that's where you're probably going to run into a problem where it's like, okay, the viscosity on this might be too freaking crazy for your engine type, and then it causes problems. But yeah, in a bind, you know, you go ahead and
Now the synthetic costs near a $100 for 5 quarts. It's completely insane. And Kevin says early 2000s.
And then $100 for 5 quarts. I mean, that might be true now that there's the Iran war going on. I don't really know. I haven't looked recently. But that sounds kind of high to me. Again, I have a truck. And like shop around first, get a few quotes. You don't have to go to the first engine oil place. And again, don't let them upsell you on the high end, super fancy fucking oil. You probably don't need it. You should be able to get, you know, if you're driving a little sedan or something, you probably should be able to get your oil changed for like $50 or less, I would imagine.
Prices are going to increase every year, and that was nearly a quarter century ago. But still, a packed lunch of 2 hard-boiled eggs, an apple, and a baggie of nuts
bro, like, come on. You don't got to be doing that. You don't have to be scarfing down hard-boiled eggs every day for lunch. And then also, this just isn't really a realistic piece of advice to give people. If you want people to be frugal and everything, telling them to eat 2 fucking hard-boiled eggs every fucking day for lunch is not going to be a realistic way to like get people to sign on to something like that. You got to give them something. There are options out there that are realistic and aren't, you know, freaking crazy or whatever. I'm kind of digging the blue. What do you guys think? Say, what do you guys think? I don't even think there's anybody watching right now. But okay, it's either the blue or the red. The red is very Sith looking, but I don't know, it's too matchy with my character. I might change her outfit in the future, but I kind of feel that blue. Kind of feeling the blue. Let's do this one. Or wait a second, was there other options I was looking at? Hold on.
Under $4. Black coffee in the break room is free. And Nicholas says Israel flag in bio. The NC.
That's another thing too. I mean, I'm not a super duper, I don't know what you call like a coffee, whatever the coffee version of a sommelier is, but I'm not, whatever that is, I'm not that. Is Starbucks really so good that you can't just make coffee at your job? Because a lot of, you know, most jobs are going to have coffee making machine and creamer and stuff like that. Like just make that, you know, if you're on a budget, you don't need to, obviously you don't need to get a Starbucks. If you want to treat yourself every now and then, go for it. But if you're struggling, like just make the coffee at work. It's no big deal.
TS Master says, why is Gen Z paying $50 for gas when they make $15 an hour? Are they stupid? And Dirty Water Degen says, imagine having every opportunity to live within your means and choosing not to because you feel entitled to high-end burritos. Frank Lopez's ghost quote tweets the clip by saying, when I was in my 20s in the 1990s, I ate out twice a day, went to the bar every night, every summer.
I will say this, when I was in college, I would, every now and then when I was in a rush, I would get burritos at Taco Bell, and that was cheap. I think this is like in the 2010s. I want to say it was like $1 something for a burrito. It certainly wasn't more than like $2 and some change. Okay, so it was below that. So I'd get like 2 burritos and I would have lunch for like $4 or $5. You know what I mean? Like it was pretty reasonable. But I've gone there recently now, and I feel like the burritos are like, how much are they charging? That's crazy. Taco Bell. I will say this, fast food prices have gone up a lot in recent years, I feel like. Bean burrito. Cost? Depending on your location. Oh, maybe it's because I moved to the Bay Area. Maybe that's really what it is. I'm thinking the prices really jumped up, but I'm just living in those Bay Area prices now.
Weekend drove 200 miles to the family cabin
Oh my
and
God,
still
bro,
had money
no.
left over. To say Gen Z
Keep
just
hitting all
needs
these
to stop
apps that I'm
eating
trying not
lunch
to run.
is ridiculous. Boomers need to stop this nonsense. The refined populist quote tweets the
Boomers be
with
booming.
these screenshots in the caption. A large fast food value meal costs $20 with tax. What are they supposed to do? Attaching these various screenshots
What?
like
Wait, what? A large value meal? Where are you eating at? Hold on a second. Where is this at? A large fast food? What? Large Wisconsin Culver's. What the hell is a Culver's? This is some Midwest bullshit. Culver's. Well, these look like some beefy ass burgers, though. Are they? Wait, is Culver's? I feel like this has got to be one of those, like, they're part of another fast food. Culver's is related, like they're cousins. Better Burgers? Or are they their own thing? I guess they're their own thing. But, yeah. $20 is a lot. Okay. Like, I feel like maybe you're choosing the more expensive fast food restaurants at this point. Because, like, what is McDonald's? I don't know. What would the meal be? Like a quarter pounder? Pounder meal? With cheese! 110 calories. Build your own meal. Oh my god. Come on. Just want a simple answer. What is this? I never even considered the possibility, but of course it makes some shopping. What the fuck is this? Quarter pounder box? I would have never even thought about this, but of course there is a collector's market for McDonald's products. A freaking box. All those times I threw away my fast food wrappers and I should have kept them as collector's items. $12. Okay, so $12. Come on now. Like, why are you going to the most expensive fast food joints that you can? It's like complaining that fast food costs a lot of money and then you're going to the Habit. And the Habit is like the most overpriced fast food. Like, I understand paying a little bit more for a fancier burger and everything, but the Habit is not even like particularly good. It's like, it's weak sauce to be charging as much as they do. If I'm going to, if I'm paying freaking, if I'm paying, what's the restaurant I just said right now? The Habit. If I'm paying Habit prices, I expect like In-N-Out quality or like Five Guys quality. What they charge is insane.
this steak bowl showing $20 from Chipotle, a cheesy garlic meal, a quarter-pound chopped brisket for $16, etc. And Caleb Hammer quote tweets the refined populist by saying, "Pack a sandwich." And the Vark replies, "Why stop there? Sandwiches are honestly still breaking the bank, and most of the ingredients are trash for you. If this is financial..."
So, you know, this is being like stupid and hyperbolic, and this is the places where, like, I hate to give people like Caleb and stuff more credit and more like make them look like, we got to stop making some of these right-wing crazy fucking people look more reasonable than they are. You know, these are stupid hills to be dying on and making arguments for. Like, Caleb has a lot of stupid positions that he has over like right-wing politics and everything. Why do you gotta give him the W on something like this? It's such a stupid take to have. Like, in this case, he's right. Like, if you're really struggling, don't be going to a place that's charging like $20 fucking or your meal. Like, at the very least, go to fucking McDonald's. But also, like, yeah, if you're really struggling at that point, go to a place that is or buy your food. Like, go to a grocery store and make your own food. Of course. To pretend like that's not possible and that's not feasible is just not true. Okay, it isn't. If you're eating out, you're paying for the convenience of not having to you know, meal prep yourself. It's not the end of the world for you to meal prep. You can do it. It's not that big of a deal.
advice, it's still poor and can be mid-maxed.
This thing's cool.
50 pounds of sugar can be as cheap as $30. That's 90,000 calories. Get some salt and water and live off 12 cents a day of sugar water. Mausa Production says, hey Americans kids, work hard at school, get a good job, and eat like a 1950s construction worker your whole life. Congrats. NFL Youngboy says, full of nasty ass deli meat that's slowly killing you. Sure, a good idea. Manco Smash says, what the f is wrong with people pretending that the biggest, most expensive combo meal from fast food, which post-COVID is famously expensive and has like 2,000 calories all in, is the median lunch?
Yeah, see, that's the other thing too, is that it's not ideal to be eating out all the time because you're like double hitting yourself. You're hitting yourself in the wallet. And also, it's not going to be like the healthiest food for you. Obviously, I shouldn't have to say this. So, and then you get into a vicious cycle where the fast food makes you feel worse, and it makes you sluggish, and it makes you not want to, you know, like do things. Like you get home at the end of the day, like I don't want to cook for myself. I don't want to meal prep for myself. And then you're in a habit of, okay, now you're not eating healthy because you're eating out, which is making you want to eat out more because you're too sluggish. You don't have the energy. You don't feel motivated. You don't have the health. It's affecting your performance elsewhere in life as well, right? You want to eat a little bit healthier. You don't need to eat out every day. We got to stop that, okay?
You can get lunch at Costco for $1.50, showing the $1.50.
That's also crazy true too as well. I'll go shopping at Costco every now and then to stock up on some stuff. I was surprised when I went there the other day, and I was like, how have they not raised their prices more over this period of time? They're like, to get a little pizza slice, I think it was like $2, which they give you it's one pizza slice, but it's essentially like 2 or 3 pizza slices anywhere else. And it's like $2. And like, I'm sure it's not the healthiest or anything, but like shit, go over there and get a freaking, he's totally right. Go to Costco and do it. Now, you need a Costco membership. That's going to cost you money, of course, right? But you might come out penciling out in the long run, or, you know, see if you can be added on to one of your parents' Costco plans. And here's the thing. If you're struggling, this is what I do. Let me show you what I do. I've been doing this for a long time now. Hold on a second. Pull this off the side. I don't want you guys seeing my secrets here. Okay. Or actually, can I open this up? I might be able to open this up without having to edit it. I don't think I have Office 365 on my computer, or not the one where you can edit. I only have the viewer, I think. But I think I should be able to pull it up to view. Damn it. What am I looking for? Maybe I don't have it on this computer. Might only have it on my laptop. Oh, no. I take that back. I do have some of my files on here. I don't have those files on here. Okay, that's okay. We'll look it up on here. But basically what I'm going to show you is the way that I budget and plan out. I have an Excel sheet that I use for my weekly agenda and also my budget. And it's easy to do, easy to set up. Budgeting is a little bit easier than I think people realize, but I don't do anything super fancy with my budgeting. I forgot what my password for this account is. Oh yeah, I forgot. Okay, hold on. But you don't need to, like, hey, you know, doing like a basic budgeting is better than doing no budgeting, right? That's the idea there. So, hold on. Hold your horses. Okay. Okay. Yeah, alright, let me give you this as an example. Okay. So I don't know why this came out in black and white. I thought I usually color this thing in so it's easier to read. Let me go back. Oh, here we go. There we go. Okay. Now it looks nice and sexy. Look at that color theory. It's nice to look at. It's easy on the eyes. Okay. So here you go, right? You have, if you're getting the full amount of sleep every day, you should have, I think it was 116 hours of sleep. 8 times 7, or I'm sorry, not 8 times 7. Oh yeah, 8 times... Actually, let's do this. 16 hours. If you get a full 8 hours of sleep every day, you have 16 waking hours every day. Now, you're not literally using every minute of those 18 hours, or 16 hours. So it's actually 112. So I have 112 here at the top. Make sure you guys can see this. Oh, you can't see this. Hold on a second. Small window. I just realized, is my stream like glitched out? What's going on here? Can you see this on... I wonder if people could see it on their end. Hold on. Let me check something. I did not mean to do that.
There's been a huge debate sparked.
Enable preview. Enable preview. Make sure my stream is running, because I cannot see on OBS. It's all like frozen, but it says that I'm still streaming, so I just want to make sure that that's actually the case. Just talking to myself in the void right now. I mean, that's usually what I'm doing anyways, but void right now. Okay, yeah, no, it's running. I mean, that's usually what I'm doing anyways, but void right now. Okay, yeah, no, it's running. I mean, that's usually what I'm doing anyways, but void right now. Okay, yeah, no, it's running. I mean, there you go. That's usually what I'm doing anyways, but void right now. All right. Okay, let me bring this up on the big screen real fast so you can see it. It's probably too hard to see from there. Do the big window. Bam. Wham bam. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Right? So you get 112 hours. You do... I did 114 because I was considering like I'll probably sleep like 7 hours realistically. I block out basically the time that I plan on being asleep. And then I have, okay, let me block out work. You block out the things, the time slots that you know that you're going to be, like you can't move around. And then everything else you kind of figure out, okay, I got 45 hours in work. I'm kind of including the travel time in there. And then these other things that I want to spend time on. Art is like my own art. Phys, what was phys? Oh, physical, like being physical, working out. Cult was short for culture. So like reading, maybe learning a different language. That's what I had here. Was I was trying to do like one of those language programs when I put this together. You know, learning music, that kind of stuff. Nutrition, spend some time for lunch or dinner. You spend time, you know, put time aside that I can actually cook and stuff. Edge was for engineering, like practicing my engineering stuff. And then the purple was relax, like whatever I'm doing to relax, like game and watch, either gaming or watching shows or TV, all that kind of stuff, right? So you block out what you can't move, and then you find like what you could do is you can just start winging it and trying to figure out, okay, when do I want to do this thing or that thing? And what I try to do too is balance out, like, okay, if I'm working out right after work, I know realistically I can't just go from working a full 8 hours, going to the gym, and then I come home and then I do more work. Like, it's not realistic, right? So I need time to relax, have some dinner, have some relaxation time. You want to break it up such that it's realistic for you. Like realistically, you can't expect yourself, if you're a student, for example, to just slot out nothing but studying for all of these hours. You might want to do like, let's do like an hour and a half of studying, and then in between the hour and a half, like I spend maybe 30 minutes doing some kind of relaxation or shifting gears into something that takes my mind off of studying. And then after I kind of recharge a bit, then I maybe spend another hour and a half studying, and then I go do something else, right? So you got to be realistic with yourself in terms of balancing out like your energy and your time. If you're going to spend a few hours doing one thing, you might want to do something that's a total shift of gears. Maybe if you're spending a lot of time like sitting and doing stuff, studying, maybe you break that up with like some time that you spent like walking or jogging or going to the gym, so that you get what I'm saying. You're trying to break it up. Alternatively, what you could do, or what I've done in the past, is like, okay, I want to spend about this much time every week doing my, doing art. I want to spend 10 hours a week. So then I have 10 hours here, and then I just try to figure out, okay, once I slot everything else in, where can I slot in a few hours here and there to kind of reach that goal of 10 hours. And then what I do here, of course, is you got 114 hours of being awake, being alive, and then you start subtracting out, right? Because the equation here is 114. At the end of this here, it tells me how many total hours I have at the end. So it's 114 minus the sum of all these other hours that I'm spending on things. And so as I start adding things in, as I start blocking out time, I start filling in here, okay, I had another hour here, let me increase this to 6, let me increase this to 7, whatever it may be. And then at the end, you can see how many hours you have left. That's how I do it. Now here on the right side, you see I have my budget. So I have my total income. This is not accurate anymore for me. Just, you know, these aren't real numbers, but you get the idea, right? So I'm spending money, you know, I'm getting money in. The amount that I put in here, by the way, would be like an after-tax thing, because I want to be realistic about how much money I can spend. So I have money like set aside for rent, right? And it's rents. You start filling in the things that are static that you can't change, that you can't wiggle on. You have money for rent. I think the place that I was living at the time, they paid for utilities. This seems like a lot of money, by the way. This is what it costs to live in certain areas in California. I have my auto loan I got to pay. I have insurance that I pay. I have the amount of money that I thought I was going to be spending on gas. I have home insurance. I have my monthly gym membership, whatever I'm spending on the internet, you know, whatever my budget was for food, you know, after I calculate it out. And I have a pretty good idea. One thing that you could do is if you start grocery shopping, you want to get into the habit of that, go to the grocery store, get what you need. Then over the next maybe month or two, just trying to keep track of how often do you have to go back to the store to rebuy things and how much are you spending. And then by the end of that month or two, you should have a good idea of like what is a realistic amount of money that you're going to need every month to spend on your groceries. And then I had, you know, 12 for subscriptions. And then I had this amount that I was spending on like paying down, you know, student loans or whatever it was. And then this is how much I had at the end. So cool, I have some money that I could put into savings or use for an emergency or whatever it may be, right? So that's kind of the idea there. And again, this is the same thing. You have the total at the top. You have the bottom is the total minus the sum of all of these things. And as you fill in things, you get an idea of, okay, am I spending too much here? You know, am I in a net negative point? Because let's say we added, I don't know, I was spending $700 a month in debt and I had $300 on gas. And then I had a water bill that was 200, I don't know why, 200. Oh shit, I'm in the negative. So now I need to start figuring out, okay, what can I cut back on here to start, you know, making things work out? Okay, I have subscriptions for Amazon and Google Music and all this stupid shit, right? Okay, can I get rid of one of these? Do I really need them all? Can I reduce this to, you know, $5 a month by getting rid of them? One of them, okay, maybe. Can I downgrade my internet to a slower internet? Let's do 35, okay? All right, we still have a little bit that we're paying. Can I shop around for auto insurance and maybe get a lower rate? Maybe I get it down to 125. Okay, that's cool. Can I refinance my auto loan and maybe get this down to, you know, $450 a month? Maybe we do that. What are other things that we can maybe reduce here? Oh, well, okay. I'm in a net positive. Now, $70 is not a good buffer. You don't want to have, because miscellaneous things come up. You can have a miscellaneous category too, but miscellaneous things are going to come up. I mean, this isn't for me, this wouldn't be a comfortable amount to be left with at the end of the month. I'd want to have a lot more money left. I'd want to have a couple hundred at the very least to feel like, okay, I'm doing all right. Right. But you get the idea. That's budgeting, and having an agenda isn't super hard. You kind of get started, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Start off with something and then just refine it as you go along. You reassess it. I used to have at the end of my week here on Sundays, I would read, and then I'd have a 30 minutes that I'd spend on eval, which is like, I would kind of look back and assess like, okay, how did my week go? Was any of this realistic? Do I need to refine any of these things to try to be more realistic and be more efficient with my time and kind of have a better plan for the next week kind of thing? You can do something like that, right? But yeah, there you go. All right, where were we at?
In my 20s in the 1990s, I ate out twice a day, went to the bar every night. Every summer weekend, I drove 200 miles to the family cabin, and I still had money left over. To say Gen Z just needs to stop eating lunch is ridiculous. Boomers need to stop this.
You know, you'd save a lot of money if you just stop eating. Just don't eat, bro.
Nonsense.
You have all the money in the world.
Populist quote tweets the clip with these screenshots in the caption. A large fast food value meal costs $20 with tax. What are they supposed to do? Attaching these various screenshots like this steak bowl showing $20 from Chipotle. Get some salt and water and live off 12 cents a day of sugar water. Mauser Production says, hey Americans kids, work hard at school, get a good job, and eat like a 1950s construction worker your whole life. Congrats. NFL Youngboy says, full of nasty ass deli meat that's slowly killing you. Sure, a good idea. Manco Smash says, what the f is wrong with people pretending that the biggest, most expensive combo meal from fast food, which post-COVID is famously expensive and has like 2,000 calories all in, is the median lunch? You can get lunch at Costco for $1.50, showing the $1.50 combo of an all-beef hot dog and 20-ounce soda. Alexander Da Vinci replies to Caleb by saying, that's not the point, Caleb. All you rich aren't getting the point. Who makes the 70K a year? Y'all are picking the part of what he said you can run with. Who makes that? Nurses, some teachers, firefighters, cops, engineers, entry construction workers. My issue is some self-righteous billionaire telling people who make the world go round, your lunch is too expensive and that's why you live with your mom. Seriously, the $28 isn't the issue. It's a man who doesn't understand what he's saying. No one in the South is making 70K a year, even with 2 incomes in some places.
That's also worth mentioning. I mean, we looked at medians earlier, but if you're living in like the Midwest or the South, probably your income is probably less than the median. People will talk about like the cost of living is higher in California. That's definitely true, right? But you also have to consider things like you also get paid more in California. I used to work in the hospital sector, and the nurses I'd work with, I'd have travel nurses. Travel nurse is basically a nurse who has a contract maybe for a few months, or they're working in a different hospital location. They basically live there. A lot of times they'll rent out an apartment for a few months, or they'll like group up together and rent with a few other nurses, or a lot of nurses would rent out their units to travel nurses, or rent out a room to travel, whatever it may be, right? So they'd save a lot of money because they're not really with their family for a few months. They would go home on the weekends typically, I would find, but they'd save a lot of money because they basically work and then go home and they're just paying a little bit for rent, but they'd be making California money. But then at the end of their contract, they'd be going back and spending their California money in somewhere like, whatever it may be, like, I don't know, Tennessee, Iowa, whatever it may be, right? And so they're making a killing because California money goes a long way in, Idaho or Wisconsin or wherever it may be. It's not that the currency is different. It's that the wages are higher in a state like this.
Is so out of touch with the average ordinary American.
By the way,
and everyone's
trying to figure out what to do with your life, nursing is a pretty cool gig to go down.
Reality.
There's a lot of opportunities. It's not an easy job. It's a tough job. We have to deal with a lot of bullshit, but they get paid well. I feel like nurses kind of have each other's back. It's like there's a lot of places where you work and you feel very atomized and individualized. You're working in a cubicle. I felt like when I used to work around nurses, they had like a sisterhood, and they would kind of like take care of each other, and they'd have really good relationships with each other in and outside of work, and they would like celebrate each other's birthdays, and out of work they'd do like little get-togethers and stuff like that. There's a lot of nursing unions, and the nursing unions would actually negotiate like a lot of like good benefits and vacation hours and things like that. And then, like I said, like you have opportunities to do like travel nursing where you get paid a lot of money, maybe in a different state where it pays more, or you get the opportunity to, hey, like, I want to go try living in another state for a few months. Fuck it. Like, I'm young. I'm going to, bounce around as a travel nurse, make a lot of money, get to kind of experience different areas in the United States. And then, maybe in a year or two, then I can kind of figure out what I want to do. Like, there's a lot of places to go with nursing. I feel like it's a very good route to go down. Especially as a woman, not that you have to be a woman to be a nurse. It's just that it's very, it's very female dominated field. And so if you're a woman, you're concerned about, not wanting to work in a place that's male dominated and a lot of discrimination with the males and being the fish out of water. Like, nursing is a place where you're going to be surrounded by other women, and you guys are all, and it's a good job opportunity, and there's a good kind of sisterhood camaraderie going on there. I would recommend it.
and they still don't get a home. What about the single male 25 to 38 making 35 to 50K? That's the majority. It's having people saying, we can't buy a home for blah blah, and that situation isn't even most people. He's literally speaking to in the United States. Roughly 2.5 to 3.5% of individual earners fall strictly within the 68K to 71K annual income bracket, directly from Gemini and Grok. Y'all are missing the reason for the outrage completely. It's not about the $28. It's about some rich, pompous asshat trying to recreate the Roman Empire. I'm a staunch Republican.
I mean, I think that's a reasonable take to have, that, hey, like, Kevin O'Leary and Caleb Hannemer, maybe they're a little bit out of touch, maybe they're a little bit, pompous, looking down their nose at people in the middle class who don't want to just subsist on breadcrumbs, right? Want to be able to actually live their life. I 100% agree with that. But you guys make yourselves look ridiculous when you take the opposite extreme, which is to just make excuses for splurging out on fast food in the most expensive fast food places every day. That's ridiculous too, right? If you were more reasonable, had a reasonable position of, hey, like, it's easy for you to say that. You make so much money, you have fuck you money. These kind of small dollar amounts don't really mean a lot to you. You can afford to have a nutritionist and have people cook for you and all these things like that. Yeah, sure. But at the same time, you can't make yourself look ridiculous by comparison by talking about, like, oh, I need to eat out for $24 a day every day at the most expensive fast food restaurants. Like, obviously that's not true. No one actually believes that. You don't actually have to. You're choosing to do that.
In a conservative, but this is asinine. And Javi says, you wrote all that and still don't understand the point. Live within your means. Budget accordingly. You are not entitled to other people's money or lives. Tom Foe quotes Caleb by saying, pack a sandwich, I said to the 25-year-old man who works 3 jobs and lives out of his car. He obviously doesn't grind hard enough. And True says, if you have 3 jobs and are living out of your car, you're shit with money and probably deserve to be homeless. He'd also post Caleb Hammer's tweet on his page, and Nickel replies with this screenshot of a grocery checkout. In the caption, it's literally so much more expensive to make a sandwich yourself and there's so much food waste. Showing bread being $6, turkey being $7, and $14 for Colby Jack cheese, and
But like, when you say that, these people, the people who say stuff like this, it makes me wonder, like, have you ever cooked for yourself? Have you ever grocery shopped in your life? Because yes, maybe you're paying $70 for a loaf of bread, maybe you're paying $6 for sandwich meat, but you understand that that's not just for one sandwich. That's enough to make, like, I don't know, like a couple dozen, like not a couple dozen, but maybe like a dozen sandwiches. Or like, what does a loaf of bread have? It probably has enough bread for, I'm trying to just think off the top of my head, probably like 9 sandwiches. So yes, you are saving money, because it's you're not looking at it as if you're saying $7 plus $8 plus whatever else, like the cheese, whatever the cheese costs and whatever the lettuce costs, like per sandwich. That's for like 12 sandwiches,
$14.
I shouldn't even have to say this. It's wild that I have to say
and
this.
Twisted Abyss replies, it's literally cheaper to make your own. For like $20-$30, you can make like 10 sandwiches. And
Yes.
Nickel says, you think I'm going to eat 10 sandwiches for lunch? And Mr. B says, here's a secret. You keep the ingredients at home and use them when you want a meal.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, I'm somebody who can do a sandwich every day. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but I can. Yeah, you don't have to do a sandwich every day, but there are other options too. Like, you could do a sandwich, you can do, I mean, other people are more creative with food than I am. I'm like the most boring person when it comes to my food options, but like, yeah, you could do a sandwich, you can make a little stir fry thing, you could do like little burrito things, or like a wrap or something. I don't know, like, there's options. It doesn't have to just be a sandwich, of course. Yeah, like, these people are just being pedantic, and that's the shitty part, is that I do think Dennis O'Leary is kind of a rich douchey asshole, but like, I hate that these people are making him look reasonable by comparison.
Alex replies to Yeet by saying, he gives the most basic financial advice and they call him right-wing for it. Chiva Charva replies to Yeet by saying, I hate this fat chud. He is unfathomably annoying. His voice especially. SDD says, it is definitely that simple, yes. But saying that is like a 90 IQ take, dude. The problem isn't the people not packing sandwiches. It's corporations prioritizing profitability over public service. We live in a clown world, and people giving this advice are complicit. Hamas CEO CEO quote tweets it by saying, "I need to see his DoorDash order history." And Squirtles says he's a millionaire. Unlike you, his DoorDash history wouldn't be honestly comparable.
Unlike
You just
you.
feel entitled to what he has, you waste of oxygen. And Hamas, the CEO, says, "You don't know me, Squirtles." Kitty quote tweets it by saying, "His employees get a $20 a day lunch stipend as a benefit, by the way." And Big T says, "In literally any other context, lefties would blow him for this and then complain that all companies should be forced to pay a lunch stipend. But not today. Today he's bad for this." And Kitty says, "Man, he's good for it. It's just something to keep in mind when he turns around and says pack a sandwich when buying lunch has been normal for workmen for 3,000 years. And Big T says, "The lunchbox has been synonymous with the worker since the Industrial Revolution." And Kitty says, "And a fresh bake."
It is worth noting, though, that during the Industrial Revolution, it was commonplace for the working man to have a stay-at-home wife who was packing him lunch every day. So, I mean, it really is actually worth noting. Not to say that you can't do it, right? But when we talk about, like, the model of, you know, people did in the past and how people did things in the past, like, yeah, but it was also true that usually one person was working and the other person was staying at home and, like, cooking and making meals and stuff like that. So being a single person who has to both work and take care of your own home and cook for yourself, like, yeah, it is a little bit of an extra burden, of course. It's not undue. It's not that you can't do that or anything, but yeah, I mean, it is worth noting that it is a little bit more of an effort than people kind of make it out to be.
The meat pie has been a normal lunch for 1,200 years. And Big T replies with this picture of a beef pot pie and the caption, $1.25 at Safeway. Coop Noob quotes its post by saying, "He can try and hide it all he wants, but I know a Chick-fil-A regular when I see one. I know a face that wakes up sad on Sundays." Caleb Hammer then screenshots that post by Hamas' CEO
That was actually kinda good.
saying, "I need to see his DoorDash order history," and says, "It fits in the budget."
So, I mean, I'm all for making fun of Caleb Hammer and everything, but at the end of the day, obviously, Caleb Hammer can afford to eat out. And he acknowledges that he's fat. Like, you know, like, he can afford to eat out, and it's a legitimate point that if you can't, his whole point about, like, don't do it if you can't do it, that's legitimate, you know? He can afford to splurge. If you have the money to splurge and everything, then sure. But if you don't, then don't do it.
That's the point. And Hamas CEO says, "Okay, can I please see your DoorDash history now?" And Caleb says, "Fine. You caught my emergency coffees, which are in the budget." And there's 3 orders from May 9th, May 3rd, May 2nd.
You know, I wasn't really considering it before, but I kind of feel like yellow works with her, or like an amber color.
Summer Moon Coffee Bar for $19.62, Malone Specialty Coffee for $16.89, a Target order for Counterculture Organic Fast Forward Whole Bean Coffee.
The thing is, my character on my other account, not my other account, on my other character can craft like fancy lightsaber crystals. I might be better off just doing that than buying one of these. I like this one though. It's like a pink. The orange ain't bad though. It ain't bad.
12 ounces for $29.59 and a salty donut vanilla bean latte for $13.73. And Skyline Husky says, "I'm not going to shame you for your DoorDash. After all, it's in the budget. That being said, I will be cold dead in the ground before I pay $30 for a coffee. That coffee better be made of gold."
That is insane. $30 for a coffee? That's crazy. That must be, I mean, that has to be like the best coffee that you've had in your life. For $30, that's crazy.
Yeah, handy behind the dumpster for that price. Mauza Production says, "Bro buying $30 cups of coffee, but judge people that want better food. The solution is just budget. We need to fix the fucking system, not the individuals." Organic replies to Caleb's original post by saying, "Remove your pay and live like the advice you give. It's easy and tone deaf to say this shit to people who want to find small enjoyments in the daily survival. Everyone is the man when things are going right. You find out people's true colors when things go wrong." Ali tweets out, "The younger and poorer the generation, the more they eat out and DoorDash. This is part of the problem." Attaching this graph, how each generation spends on food, Jan to September 30th, 2023.
It's probably the case that, you know, as a function of like total cost of living and everything, that eating out is probably cheaper than it was when the older generation, you know, were at that age. And that might sound crazy, but keep in mind, I mean, we didn't have the same advancements in like logistics and refrigeration for transporting stuff. Not to say that we didn't have it, but it's just more advanced now. It's cheaper now. We have economies of scales for these things. We have better food preparation nowadays. We have like more efficient, higher production food processing centers nowadays. So like these things, as a function of total cost of living, I would be willing to bet that I'm kind of curious. Let me Google this real fast. Factoring in inflation, was it more expensive to eat out, let's say like 60 years ago? Because when I listen to old people talk about it, eating out back in the old days was something that you did on occasion. It was something that maybe you did a few times a month, maybe. But nowadays we treat eating out like something you can do every day, which, sure, that's the advancement of technology and society and everything. We could do that, but just keep in mind, like, they weren't eating out every day. This wasn't something that was supposed to be. So yes, factoring in inflation, eating out was generally much more expensive 60 years ago than it is today. And that would be crazy for people to hear, because people hear things like, oh, a burger used to cost like 60 cents. Yeah, but people used to get paid like 60 cents an hour. It was crazy back then. A loaf of bread typically costs between 0.22 and ground beef costs 0.63. Modern inflation, okay, yeah. Anyways, you get the idea.
And we have Gen Z with 22% on delivery, 46% on restaurants, compared to other generations being less and less each year. And Taylor Lorenz quotes the post by saying, "This is because they do not have the time or capacity to create home-cooked meals. It's an issue countless people have tried to raise with leftists, but big leftists online continue to shame/abuse poor people for being forced to rely on these services for meals, which act as a tax on the poor. The poorest people often don't have the capacity to make home-cooked meals for many reasons, but that's not stopping leftists for advocating to deny poor people access to pre-cooked meals and things like rotisserie chicken. They cannot ever imagine a better world. It's incredible." And Jack Mack replies to Taylor by saying, "How many people don't have the ability to cook?" And Taylor says, "A lot, actually. I'm not sure if you've ever worked a double before, but you certainly do not have time to make home-cooked meals. Not everyone can make #content." Yeah,
if you're working a double, I mean, I can see that. I'm sympathetic to that. I totally am, but that is pretty unusual, realistically speaking. Most people are not working double shifts. Because the previous was not removed from this slot, it will be destroyed. Yeah, that's fine, I don't care. I need a cooler lightsaber hilt than this. See if I can
For
find a cheap
Marshall
one.
all day, then cook a leisurely dinner. And Jack
Again, I
Mack
can
says,
construct them on my other
"Perhaps should
character,
save
but I
our
just don't
delivery
feel like
fees
it right
then and
now."
just go to the restaurants. Pre-made meals from various grocery stores also exist. DoorDash being the only option
sorry about that.
sounds a bit
Yeah,
dramatic. And Taylor
that
says,
is
"Okay,
true too.
so you have
That is
literally never
true.
worked a double. Lol. The point is you have no time or ability to go to a restaurant. That's the whole point."
And if you're working double shifts, you should be making decent amount of money. I mean, you're making, at double shift, you're not only making overtime, you're making double time, right? Because it's, what is it? It's first 8 hours of regular time. I think it's the first, is it the first 12? I think the first 12 are overtime, and I think anything past 12 is now double time. So overtime, at least in the state of California, you're making 1.5 times your wage. But then once you move into double time, now you're making 2 times your wage. So if you're working doubles, I think even on a minimum wage, you should be making enough money to where the days that you're working a double, you should be able to eat out or whatever you got to do, or it shouldn't be making or breaking your budget. But that's not to say, I don't think we should live in a world where people have to work doubles to make ends meet. I don't think that's a good world. I'm just saying that if you are doing that, you probably do make enough to at least be able to afford, eating out at least on the days that you have to work a double. You don't really have the time to make food for yourself.
Here,
I get it.
Bizarre to call poor people dramatic because they can't afford luxuries you're taking for granted. Not everyone has a cush media job. And Jack Mack says, "Okay, so back to my original question. How many of these people exist? Is it 25% of Gen Z?" And Taylor says, "You'll have to look up the current stats around poverty rates, labor, and disability. It's a lot higher than you'd imagine. The poorer you are, the more you're forced to rely on these exploitative services. Educate yourself on the topic. Join a meal delivery volunteer program." And Jack says, "Pass. Instead, I'm gonna run for NYC mayor and say DoorDash is a right for the people, free of charge." And the fat electrician quotes Taylor by saying, "We are unironically moments away from people legitimately declaring DoorDash is a human right." And Tucker McElroy replies, "Hey man, I see you have a new car, nice house, and take vacations. How do you do it?" "Well, I do X, Y."
And also, here's the other thing too, is you can apply for, food stamps. Though, I mean, the only thing that I'll say about this is everything I'm talking about so far is from my experience as a Californian. California will take care of its poor people as much as possible. There are states, especially red states, where it is worth saying, without me looking into it, it's totally possible. I don't put it past a lot of red states to deliberately make it incredibly hard for you to access things like food stamps and food and meal assistance. If you're on that lower end, if you're working as a young person, if you're working as a whatever it may be, right, you can get food assistance that'll help you kind of cover the cost of things. But again, that's from a California context. I don't know how it is in other states. Republicans are crazy. They probably, they don't want to fund those sorts of things. I get it.
YZ, and it took 2 decades to make that happen. You're seeing me at 45, not 25. F that, man. You capitalist pig. I'm not doing that. How come my life isn't exactly like yours regardless of how much work I do? Why should I take your advice? You asked how I got here. Told you. Up to you then. Derailed says, how the hell can broke college kids cook a meal in their dorm room for decades with a thrift store hot plate for almost nothing? And now all of a sudden the technology is lost. Yes, if you can't figure it out, you should be shamed relentlessly until you...
And I mean, I think it's worth noting here that I think there's truth to saying this, but I think to be fair, because parents don't necessarily teach kids how to do stuff like that anymore either, because parents themselves have gotten used to relying on eating out and the convenience of eating out, and the parents can probably afford it, that some of those skills that would be commonplace in families from previous generations where they weren't eating out all the time, and it was normal for your parents to like, hey, I'm home with the kids, I'm gonna put the kids to work helping me make dinner or do the chores. And I think that a lot of young kids these days from middle class backgrounds grow up not having the skills to really know how to cook for themselves or budget for themselves or clean for themselves. And yeah, we can look at young adults who are in that situation and blame them, and sure, there should be a certain amount of blame there. But also, I think it really is worth mentioning, like, we gotta at some point kind of look at like what's going on with parents that they're not teaching their kids how to do these basic skills.
You do. Shout out to our tier 3 members, internet representatives Kiko, South, Codus Bandito, Captain Crash Out, Dearboy, Noobster, and Mr. X. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I'll see you all in the next episode.
All right, well, hey, that was that. What else do we got here? This whole crap about the peanut. You had Frogan lose her lawsuit with what's his face. And let's see what our boy let's see what our dude that talks about animals has to say. Where is it? Oh, Casual Geographic.
Plenty of people are terrified of the ocean, and arguably no other animal embodies the thalassophobia
crazy
more
lightsaber.
than the predator time seemingly left behind. Most people will never see one alive, yet they remain one of the most nightmarish and uncanny, but also complicated and least understood apex predators on the planet. In fact, the first time you ever heard of a leopard seal, it was probably giving Happy Feet hell. Or the pebble and the penguin, in which case, make sure those doctor appointments are booked. You're getting up there.
Should we
Or
actually play the
maybe
game?
it was...
That'd be kind of crazy.
If you or a loved one was a victim of that jump scare, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Not for me though. The penguin paralysis demon is incredibly feared for an animal we don't know that much about. Hey, what's a sea leopard's favorite fast food? Popeyes. But there's a whole nother side to the assault sausage, one that just might bring you to tears if you watch long enough. This video isn't to make you fear or hold hate, but understand and even appreciate the alpha seal, not for just what it is, but how and why, and all I ask is that y'all hear me out. But there is no why as to why people find leopard seals optically disturbing. Few other animals pass the eye test for being that terrifying. The leopard seal looks like a mammalian mosasaur, a prehistoric predator with...
Do people find these terrifying? I think they're kind of cute. The only times I find them kind of creepy looking or scary looking is when they open their mouth, because otherwise they just look like a little furry creature that swims through the water. Little, stuffed animal in the water. But then they open their mouth and they got like sharp ass teeth, and then they look kind of scary. But outside of that, I don't really think they're scary.
And if you think I'm exaggerating, you haven't seen or better yet heard what happens when one hauls out near humans.
Run.
Hold on, what's going on here? I gotta see this. That is super
Crazy,
creepy.
right? You can hear it in your chest. Another thing is, people often suffer from a lack of scale with sea animals. They don't know how huge tuna are, how big dolphins get, and that leopard seals can grow to 12 feet long and weigh over 1,200.
For those of you that don't go out in the wild and you don't see animals firsthand, seeing the size of animals in movies and on shows, there's something different about it when you see it firsthand. Things look bigger when you see it in person. some about it, I can't explain it. I mean, obviously I can't explain it because I see animals on TV and on movies and stuff, and yeah, sure, they look big or whatever, but I've seen those same animals in person, and it's a whole different experience, even though they're the same size, you know?
100 pounds. Trust me, there's a worse picture than this down the line. Chances are, you've never looked a leopard seal in the mouth, because then you'd have to be surgically removed from your therapist's couch. Those teeth are built like that for a reason we'll get into soon, but this internal mugshot may be coming to a beach near you. Abolish any idea that an air-breathing barracuda is confined to Antarctica, as they've been found as far as Antarctica, New Zealand, South Africa, Argentina, the what the Falklands, and more. There's at least one leopard seal aware of platypus, and that's in
My master, isn't that soft-skinned one the toy of Zash, the golden-haired lord?
Quiet, bodyguard. Save your hissing for your own kind. As for you, slave, Darth Scotia is passing. Best get out of his way.
You sent that weakling apprentice to kill me.
It looks like I didn't try hard enough. I won't make the same mistake twice. Give your master a message for me. My eye is on her, and I know. Tell her that. I know what she's trying to do here on Dromund Kaas. You and your master have no future on Dromund Kaas or in the Sith Order. Tell her that. Now, get out of my way.
What do you think? Can you eat him?
It is more machine than man, I think. Bad for, I think, his diet or digestion. Nice. All right, give me a quick second. I'm use the restroom real fast. Be right back. We're back. This room gets so warm. I'm gonna have to figure out something maybe with like a some sort of like cooling system. Portable cooling system of some sort. They're so expensive though. Swamp coolers, I've always wanted a swamp cooler. Maybe I'll actually so expensive. I've always wanted a swamp cooler because they're really, if you've ever had one, those things like they will cool you the hell down. I used to live in the Central Valley where the temperatures would get literally 110s, 115s in the summer months. And sometimes you'd be outside like working on a vehicle or something, and it was just, you can imagine how hot it was. But you got that swamp cooler blowing on you, you were living in like paradise. It felt so good. So that'd be like the ultimate like cooling system that I'd want to run with. But they're, you know, they're just expensive. But it would be nice to kind of have something like that. What is this here? How did these monkey lizards get loose? It's a monkey lizard. Also, hold on. I think I got disconnected from my headset. Give me a second. Let me hook this back up. Disconnected for. My headphones die or what? No? Oh no! I've had these for a long time and I think they might be finally crapping out on me. Which is unfortunate because I absolutely love these. These are my favorite. I highly recommend them. They're Soundcore Life A1s. I think they have a new model now at this point, but they've served me really well. Battery life's really good. They fit really snug in your ear without falling out. You can like exercise in them, work out in them. But I think the right one might have been falling apart. I don't blame them because I've had these for a while. They've lasted a long time. But also I put them through a lot of... I've had my cat grab them and chew on them. Like they've been through a lot. Drop them a lot on the floor on accident. Alright.
Insane to me. So is the idea that this apex pinniped could be pulling up to a pier by you. That would raise the hairs on Caillou. And even with many roles as the op to a penguin protagonist, people have spoken on the horror of sea leopards for centuries. Going back to the early 1900s, explorer Ernest Shackleton wrote about an Antarctica expedition where at one point, one of his men was chased across the ice by an aggressive, believed to be 12-foot leopard seal. The man thought he was in the clear when the massive seal dove back into the water. But then the sea leopard tracked him by following his shadow under the ice and ambushing and nearly snatching him at the next gap in the ice. And
That's
Thomas
crazy.
Ordley's likely would have been a statistic if one of the crew hadn't shot the seal before it could reach him. In 1985, explorer Gareth Wood was walking across a thin ice layer when a Jurassic jump scare broke out of the ice, clamping its jaws on his leg and nearly dragging him into the water, and he was only saved by his mates kicking at the seal's head with boot crampons. And that's what separates sea leopards from a lot of other predators. The vast majority of sharks will ignore you, but whether out of curiosity or something.
So a little background on this planet, Dromund Kaas. It's a, you know, this kind of scary looking jungle forest planet. Has a lot of these really ugly beasts. I think a lot of these beasts are like Sith mutated experiments, by the way. But it also has like a dark side force nexus somewhere on it, or something along those lines. I think we learn about it through the missions here. But you can kind of see why this is the capital, or the Sith made this the capital of the Empire, because it has so much dark side enemy. Only the strong will survive in an environment like this.
Something else, leopard seals will boldly swim right into your space. It's the closest you can get to an encounter with a murder mermaid. It was right there. Most times they genuinely seem curious and like they're investigating your presence. But other times they do the kind of things that led to researchers equipping inflatable boats with protective guards because of how often a 12-foot vibe check would fight through it. You only get away with that as an apex predator, and present tense plesiosaur is absolutely apex. They will eat anything. Those freakish teeth are actually for catching krill, and having trident-shaped teeth helps filter them out of the water. Krill that could be nearly 50% of their diet. Of course, the leopard seals list has much more on it, including often other seals like fur seals, and even their closest cousin, the crab eater. Obviously, they'll eat fish, and in New Zealand that can include sharks. Leopard seals also grieve squid, one was caught with a sea snake, and there's even one case of a leopard seal attempting to take out a minke whale. Even the ocean-star predator, the orca, rarely resorts to hunting an aquatic velociraptor, because this is not the average seal. But if you know this seal, you know the most famous victims of leopard seals are penguins, even though penguins aren't even the biggest part of their diet. Leopard seals are a lot more calculated than most think, and will camp themselves right at the ice's edge where they know is the penguin's entry point, which pretty much makes them a mammalian crocodile. With penguins, they'll either ambush them from below, or with a top speed of 25 miles per hour, they'll get into a police chase with an unlucky penguin. The leopard seal abuses this matchup so bad that not only will they surplus skill and murk more penguins than they eat, they'll eventually make a game out of it. Leopard seals have been seen chasing down penguins into exhaustion and seemingly toying with the bird. They'll traumatize the penguin within an inch of its life and then just shove off, like it was a sick joke. But it's when leopard seals aren't playing that things get R-rated, and it all goes back to those teeth. Those teeth could maul the grizzlies, and gives them a demon's headshot. But they lack the shearing teeth carnivores need to slice prey, and that's why you see them body birds by slamming and suplexing them against the water. A leopard seal will thrash a penguin until it genuinely gets degloved, and the penguin's skinned and flayed every possible way gets eaten. So with all that, Stevie Wonder could see how the king seal of the South got its bad rep, but wild sea leopards do have one thing that not even killer whales do, and that's a human body. There's only one case in recorded human history of a leopard seal killing a person, but it's also one of the most brutal animal attack stories I've ever shared on this channel, so for obvious reasons, viewer discretion is advised. Kirsty Brown was a 28-year-old marine biologist for the British Antarctic Survey, and on July 22, 2003, she and a buddy were snorkeling near Rothera Research Station. They were studying the impact of iceberg scouring on the environment when the leopard seal studying Kirsty violently made an impact on her. At this point, nobody had ever lost their life to a sea leopard, but there were documented instances of aggression, and as a rule, nobody was allowed in the water if a leopard seal was spotted. The problem was, no one saw this leopard seal until Kirsty screamed and disappeared, only to resurface with her head in the seal's jaws. From there, the normally sized seal would drag her deep underwater, release her long enough to just almost resurface, just to grab and drown her again, all while mauling her with bone-crushing bites. Eventually, Kirsty and the seal disappeared, and the last time her dive buddy saw her alive, she was 20 feet underwater, desperately fighting to break free, while the apex seal held her by a fin. Eventually, the seal resurfaced, over a half-mile from where they were last seen, and after bashing the predator in the head with a shovel, the rescue crew fended the seal off and finally pulled Kirsty into the boat. Tragically, as you can tell, despite several CPR attempts, Kirsty Brown would be pronounced dead right there. Kirsty's body was recovered with over 40 bite wounds, and her dive computer revealed something arguably worse. During the 10 minutes of hell, the leopard seal had dragged Kirsty to a maximum depth of 70 meters. That's 230 feet. But personally, the most...
I bet you that, I mean, things that you don't think about. I wonder if that will puncture your ear drums as well. I wonder if that would cause damage to your... I'm curious, actually. At what depth will pressure damage your eyes? About 3 meters, 1 meter down. Eye damage from pressure isn't tied to a specific depth, but rather how you dive. Oh, interesting. I wonder if your eye has like a pressure regulating feature to it. Wearing swimming goggles, if you descend about 3 feet wearing swimming goggles, unequalized pressure creates a vacuum that pulls your eyes outward. Ooh. Hold on, let me think about that for a minute. You have goggles on. Why would the unequal pressure? I'm not sure how this is happening. Because the air that's trapped in the goggles should be maintained at whatever pressure that you dived with. Water pressure itself doesn't damage your eyes as long as the pressure inside the airspace in front of your eyes is equalized with the surrounding water. Wait a second. No, it should be pushing towards your face, right? If you dive while they're properly fitted diving mask and exhale through your nose during descent, you continually equalize the pressure. In this scenario, the water pressure on your eyes is balanced, and no pressure damage will occur to depths exceeding 130 feet. Freediving wear low volume masks that can also easily equalize. If you dive deeper than 33 feet without a mask to equalize the airspace, mask squeeze can begin to cause significant bruising. See, that part I understand, because as long as the mask is secured to your eyes, you're not having any openings, then the air that's trapped in the goggles should be at whatever pressure they were when you put the goggles on. But I'd be more concerned about, I guess, like the pressure of the water pushing the goggles into your face, because the air surrounding your eyes, between your eyes and the goggles, are at a lower pressure. So the pressure of the goggles are overcoming that, so it's getting pushed into your face. So yeah, that's gonna cause like little, I don't know, like spots around your eyes. If you dive while using a properly fitted diving mask. Scuba diving. Do scuba? What does scuba mask look like? Scuba mask. Oh, you know what? Wait a second here. If it's a mask like this, I guess it might depend on the type of scuba mask that you're talking about. Oh, wait, let me think about this. If it's a mask like this, holy crap, this looks like some kind of gimp suit stuff. But if it's a mask where the rebreather is integrated into the mask, I'm not 100% sure how the air pressure works from the air tank that's leading into the mask. That might be where some of your issues arise. But if they're disconnected like this one here, I don't see how. Again, I think the air pressure that was trapped in the goggles before you dove would maintain whatever pressure they were when you dove down. I don't think that should cause an issue, right? I'm super curious. I want to read more about this. The structural limits of the human eye are immense, and a naked, unprotected human eye can structurally withstand up to roughly 30 to 10 atmospheres of pressure, far beyond what a human can physically dive. Wow. I wouldn't have guessed that. The issue is never the water crushing the eye, but rather the failure to equalize the airspace immediately in front of it. Huh. If you dive while properly fitted... Okay, let me see what the core answer is here. Do not sign me in. I don't want to sign in. Fuck you. Okay, most divers use scuba equipment which delivers compressed air to the diver's mouth via a regulator, which ensures it's at ambient pressure. The same as the water. Ah, see, that's the added variable. The pressure inside the diver's lungs is the same as the pressure outside. The diver's eyes aren't damaged because they are full of liquid, which is basically incompressible. Always like that engineering assumption that liquids are incompressible. They are under... I mean, it's always going to be compressible, but when we call a fluid incompressible, we mean that the compression is going to be negligible, given like the conditions of the system. The same goes for most of the body's organs. Humans can't handle the kinds of pressure found in deep ocean, though. So we can dive to the same depth as whales, for instance. Divers use a mask that covers their eyes and nose. So if they breathe out their nose, they can blow air into the mask. Yeah, see, that's what I was talking about. Now the mask is being filled with air pressure that's equal to whatever's getting filled, like whatever's filling your lungs. That's where the pressure in the part that's covering your eyes is going to factor in. Giving the same pressure on the outside of your eyes as the inside. Divers use a mask that covers their eyes and nose, so if they breathe out their nose, they can blow air into the mask, giving the same pressure on the outside of the eye as in the inside. If they didn't, the mask would be squashed against their face, and it would leak around the edge, so it would fill with water, again giving the same pressure outside as in. You can dive perfectly well with no mask, but you can't see so well, as the refractive index of water is much more that of air. Essentially, you become short-sighted. The ears aren't damaged for basically the same reason. They're surrounded by water on all sides, so the forces due to pressure balance out. I don't believe that this is true. Or I feel like this is overly simplified. Then again, I mean, this guy has experience as a diver. The blood flowing through your body is also pressurized to ambient pressure because the diver is wearing a flexible suit that allows the pressure to act equally everywhere. That's not really what that means, though. The eardrum is kind of a special case. There's a tube, the SWTOR tube, leading from the inside of your eardrum to the nasal cavity that lets the pressure on the inside and outside be the same. If that is blocked by mucus from a cold or allergy, painful pressure can build up as you descend and the eardrum can rupture. It usually heals up by itself. Pressure from the surrounding water acts on the entire body. Damage occurs. Well, that's not. Oh, this is a bot. But like, I don't understand. Like, this doesn't make sense to me. Just because the pressure is distributed evenly over your body doesn't really mean anything to me. Because, I mean, pressure is already force per area. So if the pressure that is increasing as you're diving down, your body's going to feel that change in pressure. Damage occurs only when there is a pressure difference across a flexible or air-filled structure. Yeah, but okay, so the issue is that they're talking about here. Let me see. Drawing app. Okay. Yeah, whatever. Get out of my way. Fill it. How do I fill it? Fill the thing, bro. Do the fill. Do the thing. Oh my god. What is this? Oh, paint bucket? There we go. Okay. So, let's use a black pen, I guess. Luminosity 0. Okay. Okay, so yep. This is the surface of your skin. Alright, it's a crappy drawing. You have the pressure coming inward. And in order for things to be okay, you need to match it, the pressure that's pushing outward. Your body has internal pressure pushing outward. If these are balanced out, you have no issue. Of course. That seems like what they're trying to say. But the issue is that the further down you go, there's a limit to how much your body's able to exert pressure outward. And at a certain point, the pressure of the water becomes greater, and now this pressure is overcoming the pressure on the other side, and now it's going to cause damage, right? The way they talk about it in this core thing makes it seem like, oh, your body's just... I'm sure there is a degree that your body... I don't know if this would be called like homeostasis or... Does the human body regulate pressure internally? I'm sure it does to a certain degree. Yes, the human body constantly automatically regulates its internal pressure, most notably blood pressure, to maintain homeostasis. Yeah, see, I was right about that term. It achieves this through highly responsive integrated network of neural reflexes hormones. So, yeah, but there's gonna be a response rate to that, and then there's also gonna be a limit, right? That's probably what they're talking about here. Is I bet that the limit to which the body can do that is usually, like, you're usually safe within the typical diving range that most humans are diving, right? That's probably what's implicit in this, that they're not explicitly stating here, which is what was leading me to be like a little bit confused. Is like, okay, my understanding of like pressure and physics and everything, this doesn't make sense, but that's the part that they're leaving out, I think. What is the limit that the body can match external pressure? External pressure. The human body's ability to tolerate external pressure is surprisingly vast because it's primarily composed of nearly incompressible fluids. However, the limit is defined by what you breathe and your body's ability to equalize. Okay, but even saying that, they make it sound like, oh, as long as you breathe in, whatever the pressure is that you're breathing in, your body's able to match that, right? But like even that's going to have a limit. Your lungs aren't infinitely compressible. There's going to be a limit to where your lungs are beyond the limit, right? The absolute physical limit for human body breathing specialized gas mixture sets in at roughly 70 to 100 atmosphere. Beyond this, extreme pressure automatically distorts the nervous system, proteins, and cell membranes. The body can equalize to massive external pressure, even down to 33.2 atmosphere, the depth of scuba records. Oh, okay. As long as the body cavities and lungs are continuously supplied with pressurized air. So 100 atmosphere, I need a frame of reference. ATM. ATM visual guide. ATM. No, not an ATM, like ATM as a pressure. So for ATM, for the unit ATM, one ATM is one ATM is 1 atmosphere. It means the pressure at sea level on Earth. And so as you move up and down that scale, I forget exactly how it scales, but that's what it's in reference to. Actually, let's do this. ATM unit. We'll just look this up on Wikipedia real fast. A standard atmosphere is a unit of pressure defined as 101. What the hell is this? Is this 101,325 pascals? It is sometimes used as a reference pressure or standard pressure. It is approximately equal to Earth's average atmospheric pressure at sea level. The standard atmosphere was originally defined as the pressure exerted by a 760 millimeter column of mercury at 0 degrees Celsius in standard gravity. It was used as a reference condition for physical and chemical properties and definition of a centigrade temperature scale set 100 C as the boiling point of water at this pressure in 1954. Okay. Okay. What is... How does the unit ATM scale? Is a non-SI unit pressure scaled by roughly equal to the mean atmospheric pressure on Earth's sea level. It serves as a universal reference point for scientific and physical calculations. The unit is precisely scaled to other pressure formats. So, okay. 1 atmosphere is equal to 101,325 pascals. Pounds per square inch. 1 atmosphere equals 14 psi. Because the true air pressure on Earth fluctuates based on weather, temperature, blah, blah, blah. Why is there so many different units of pressure? Useful information, pressure units. Okay, whatever. I don't have time for this. Okay. External water pressure compresses the whole body uniformly. Internal fluids and tissues transmit pressure inward. So there's no large net stress to crush the eyeball or skull. Transmits pressure inward. I get what they're trying to say here. Well, this is a bot. What they're really trying to say is that it's... Because what they were saying in that other Google search we did is that... Okay, let's pretend that you... I don't know, you went... Let's pretend the ocean was filled with air. Right? And the further down you go, the pressure of that air column would increase. But you're breathing in that same air... And that air would have that same pressure as the pressure of the air that's around you. So then that air pressure fills up your lungs distribute that air pressure to your blood vessels, which then, distribute it out to the rest of your body, whatever. So the air pressure that's around you is being matched by the air pressure internally. Right? That's what they're trying to communicate. Small reductions in volumes of gas-free tissues are negligible at recreational dive depths. Okay, and then you get into the ears, the sinuses, mass. Okay, all right. Well, we get the idea. So this does make sense. I just feel like when they initially explained it, they weren't really explaining it well. But okay, whatever. Back to the nature at hand.
The most disturbing part was Kirsty was already an exceptionally small human at 5'1", 120 pounds, and eyewitnesses said this was an exceptionally massive seal, estimated to have been 4.5 meters, that's nearly 15 feet long, and well over 1,300 pounds, which I genuinely don't want to believe, even if it was based off the seal's size relative to the boat, because not only would that mean a 5-foot woman was mauled by one of the largest leopard seals ever seen, but this is what that size disparity would have looked like. There's no f***ing way! And since no one ever asked the leopard
Jesus Christ. Do they get that big?
seal why, the most popular theory is that her size, black dry suit, and fins caused the colossal carnivore to clock Kirsty as a penguin or fur seal. And in all her struggling, flailing, and failing to get away, all Kirsty managed was to act like prey. Which sounds wild victim blaming, and I swear I'm not. There's a reason there's no jokes in this section. This was genuinely one of the worst animal-related deaths I've read about. Imagine being mauled by a bear, but also while being waterboarded. In fact, let's get even more descriptive. Kirsty Brown spent the last 10 minutes of her life fighting an animal nearly triple her length and 10 times her weight while being severely mauled to the head.
Here's the other thing, because they do mention this in what we were reading about, you know, diving, you know, issues with diving and everything.
You won't find a better bargain.
There is an issue with, okay, you have change in pressure, but there's also how fast can your body respond to those things. Just for example, right? There is velocity, acceleration, and then there's impulse. You can go, like, you can essentially go any speed. Your body can handle basically any speed. You could travel, well, I guess once you start getting to relativistic speed, things changes. But you can go, I mean, you can go like a couple thousand miles an hour, and it shouldn't be an issue. The issue is acceleration. And so this is also going to probably be the case with diving to an extremely low depth very quickly, is that your body's ability to actually adapt to that pressure change is there's going to be a limiting factor on how fast it could do that.
And being brought tortuously close to the surface before being pulled again over 200 feet into a freezing abyss. Not only could the violent pressure changes cause a burst eardrum or even an embolism, her compromised wetsuit would have introduced Antarctic ice-chilled water directly to her skin. In the most respectful way, I really hope she blacked out or went into shock, because that is a nightmare Final Destination couldn't dream up. Kirsty Brown would have an island posthumously named after her, and her death led to more safety measures and protocols being implemented. But there was another consequence of her horrific demise. The much more strict regulations now meant many of the biologists trying to learn more about the seals were now forbidden from entering the water to study them, something many like dive guide Kelvin Murray would call an overreaction. Suddenly, an animal we barely knew much about was now basically impossible to learn more about. It was a lot like the stingray. Stingrays are rarely aggressive, and less than 5 people in human history have lost their life to one in Australia. But because one of them was Steve Irwin, you had an entire generation ready to punch out an aquatic placemat, even though the circumstances of his death were insanely bad luck, and Khaki Jesus would have passed twice if he saw the stingray hate. Only one person has ever died to a sea leopard. It's just that the attack was so brutal that, and the pro-penguin media meant, a blubber assault weapon got demonized to hell. To be fair, with the things I said they'll do to penguins, other seals, and even humans, how could you not call this Ice Cube mammalian missile crisis a sea demon? I wouldn't blame you for being afraid, but at least give the other side of the leopard seal a chance. I was not lying when I said a pool full of sharks will ignore you, but a leopard seal will get right up in your face and conduct an investigation in your personal space. Kirsty might have been a tragic exception because aggressive or predatory encounters with humans normally happened at the ice's edge, aka the leopard seal's favorite ambush spot. But almost every time a leopard seal has approached a human already in the water, they're doing it from a place of curiosity. That is really weird for a predator. Like, for all their bad PR, bears usually avoid people. And an experiment found that even the top predators in Africa hightail it whenever they hear human. But a giga seal will study us the same way we do them. That's weird. One seal made it even weirder.
I'd imagine it probably has to do with them not having like a built-in instinctual passed down fear of humans. I don't know if in the wild, you know, for the couple thousand years that humans have been on the planet, maybe they haven't interacted with us enough times to feel afraid of us. Like, they talk about how like orcas are the top predator in the sea, and orcas won't mess with humans. And the question is always like, why? And I think the prevailing theory is that because we used to hunt whales, the whales have basically decided like, hey, we're not gonna mess with humans because we already know they'll fucking slaughter us, you know?
In 2006, photographer Paul Nicklin took a trip to Antarctica to hopefully find the steroid seal. Funny thing is, leopard seals are hard to find. They're hard for you to find. To them, you're easy.
Okay, see, that's probably what it is. I mean, it sounds like historically humans haven't had a good opportunity to really like hunt these things down, interact with them too much. They probably don't have a built-in ingrained fear of humans as a result. That would be my guess.
It wasn't long until Paul had a giant females are bigger by the way, leopard seal circling his zodiac, and it was at this moment he ignored every primitive instinct and
It's kind of cool. I kind of like these.
and got in the water and braced himself. The seal with a
Might
head
buy
bigger
these
than
for
a
later
grizzly
use.
bear's made a beeline towards Paul, and right when Paul feared the worst and held up his camera as a feeble defense, the she leopard stopped and just sized him up. Science says if you're able to stay calm and hold your ground, a leopard seal will go from possibly aggressive to curious, and she even got close enough to study her reflection in his camera. It's like her internal monologue was saying, wait, you're not afraid. Why aren't you afraid? What are you? Then she got bored and swam away, but then came back with a live penguin, which she released in front of Paul. Obviously, Paul didn't take the offer, so the predator got another penguin, and then another one. And for the next 4 days,
I think I might have turned off the walking speed thing.
Death would now be waiting to greet Paul whenever he entered the water in an attempt to feed him. I want y'all to really understand what was happening here. This she leopard was going out and tiring penguins and bringing them to Paul. And when Paul didn't eat, she'd bring increasingly lower HP penguins. She'd bring beat up, barely alive penguins. Half-eaten penguins. At one point, Paul
to disable walking, return to running, press the number
Paul
button.
would even swear that the leopard seal seemed genuinely disappointed with his lack of effort.
Slash?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Might
I
have been
can
this
only
button
think
that I
of
pressed
one
on
other
accident.
time you had a wild predator straight up offering food to a person, and it was killer whales. And at least orcas have a history of hunting alongside people. We're not talking about a trained animal or one habituated to humans. We're talking about a wild predator going out of its way to provide for a person. That's not normal. Seals are the mermaids of bears. Imagine a polar bear door dashing your dinner. That's not even the only thing leopard seals and orcas have in common. Leopard seals are much smarter than the penguin media wants you to believe. Leopard seal handling manuals go out of their way to say they're smart enough to be trained, but intelligent enough to be stubborn, and they're prone to pout and act difficult like children. At the same time, they also say that ignoring a difficult seal is a pretty solid way to get them to cooperate. Leopard seals aren't just highly intelligent, they're deeply emotional creatures too. Nora was a leopard seal that made news because it was the first time scientists watched a modern-day mosasaur mourn. Nora had a pup that tragically passed away, and in grieving, Nora would stay with her lost child for over 20 days. Nora didn't just watch over her child, she'd move the body across the ice, carried it in her jaws, and even got aggressive whenever people would get too close to them. It wouldn't even be the only time, as in 2021, 23, and 24, scientists documented the same mother doing the same thing with 3 different pups, which is a different kind of tragic. And again, the last time I can remember hearing something like this, it was when Orca J35, or Telequa, also grieved the death of her calf and couldn't let go. That's the problem with sea leopards being so understudied, because then you miss stuff like this. And that's not even mentioning arguably the most interesting thing about them. Leopard seals sing. Males will sing these beautifully haunting songs, and females in heat will respond with a song of their own. And if you haven't seen it, it's like an underwater opera or ballet from an animal that looks like a dinosaur. It's not just beautiful. Scientists actually studying these seal songs found that these songs are sequenced and structured a lot like human nursery rhymes. This guy. I really feel like leopard seals would have way better PR if they could actually survive in zoos. They're one of those animals that just don't work in captivity. They're like the great white sharks of mammals. Few leopard seals have ever been held in zoos, and the most famous case was in Sydney's Taronga. You know what I think about at night sometimes? Sometimes I think about Casey. Casey was a male leopard seal, believed to be the only male ever kept in captivity. He was found as a pup, abandoned on a beach in Guatemala, injured, emaciated, and with shark bites. Casey was brought to Taronga for treatment in 2007, where he joined female Brooke, who was rescued in 1999, and another female, Sabine, who got there a month before Casey. Now, I can already read the anti-zoo comments, so it's important to say that these seals could never be released back into the wild out of fear that if any of them were harboring any possible diseases, it'd wreck the already fragile wild population. So Taronga kept them to look after and even possibly use as ambassadors. Because again, leopard seals can always use the PR. And as Casey matured, there was a hope that he could help breed the first ever leopard seal in captivity. But since Brooke died of an illness not long after Casey showed up, it'd have to be him and Sabine. There was just one big problem. Male leopard seals sing for females, and as a seal found as a pup, Casey never learned his song. Taronga staff would play the recordings of adult leopard seal songs in hopes that Casey would find his. They even played saxophone for him. I'm not exactly sure why, but Casey wasn't above it. He genuinely seemed interested, so if he likes it, I love it. Tragically, Sabine would also be lost to an illness before Casey had the chance to court her. And as Casey finally did learn his song, he also died in 2014 after struggling with a prolonged sickness and mercifully being euthanized. That's how Casey's story ended. The last captive leopard seal ever. So at this point, I think you can see that leopard seals are so much more than a penguin plot device. They've been lambasted and typecasted for as long as we've known about them, and demonized to hell. And you might ask, is that not what I was doing in the first half of this video? And honestly, I've been wanting to talk about that for a while. Skip to here if you don't want to hear the yap, but the biggest criticism I hear about myself is that I demonize animals, I spread misinformation to demonize them, and even that I've had a direct consequence on the conservation of those animals. And not a positive one. And honestly, whenever I would see that about myself, I get,
I'm surprised he gets those criticisms, but I never got that impression from him at all. He seems like a kind of person who really loves and appreciates animals.
I'm not gonna lie, I get defensive and kind of hurt. Because I feel like I'm always saying you can't moral scale an animal, that you can't judge or you can't put a morality microscope on a wild animal. A zebra that has to weave crocs, cats, and a predatory laugh track don't give two stripes about being a good person. And then I feel like I try to...
By the way, fun fact, moral preferences are observed in other animals. What do I mean by that? What I mean is, like researchers, scientists have tested animals for things like, this is particularly true of social animals. So like dogs, crows, those kind of animals, they'll show preferences for like fairness, for example. So like, you know, if you mistreat one of the other members of their little pack or whatever, they'll respond to that in a negative way. And so those are one of those things where it's like, okay, well, why does an animal care about another animal? And it's like, well, they're social animals, so those biological predispositions to care about the rest of the pack are probably part of the biological advantage that they have, right? It's just an interesting thing to note, because I think people tend to think that animals don't have, like, morality, I guess, but some of those moral preferences do exist in other animals, and it seems to be related to the fact that they're evolved to be social, and they need to kind of have those moral preferences in order to cooperate and work together as a unit.
Try to make the separation between, you know, these are the facts that I find interesting.
These be them facts.
Are you acquainted with the big, ugly, half-machine Dark Lord? He had a message for you.
Damn Scotia. What business has he going behind my back, speaking to my apprentice, trying to intimidate you, no doubt? Wretched monster. More machine than man and dangerously powerful. Ever since I arrived on Dromund Kaas as an apprentice, he's made every effort to stand in my way. Ultimately, we cannot even begin the search for Tulakhod's ancient power with Scotia's rattling breath on our necks.
Somebody should stop him from breathing, then.
Yes, and that somebody is you. You are going to kill Scotia for me.
Finally, a challenge worthy of me.
Good. That is precisely the attitude you'll need. I cannot be tied to Scotia's murder. Brazen power plays make the Dark Council nervous. But nobody will believe that a mere apprentice could defeat Scotia. It's impossible, and that's why it will work.
The impossible's my speciality.
So it seems. I've begun to piece together the puzzle for Darth Scotia's destruction, but some elements have yet to fall into place. Out in the jungle, a group of slaves has recently revolted. They were working on a colossal statue that has since gone unfinished. I believe Scotia is hiding something of great importance near this statue. Get the archaeological plans to the area from one of the slaves, and contact me by holocommunicator.
In bizo se waitai spira press in kretai. In pise e wanata atragata indais.
All right.
Interesting, and this is the casual comedic characterization of those animals. But yeah, some corners of Twitter do not like me, especially with the dolphin thing, and I don't even have Twitter. I really just wish more people actually watch this video all the way through, or at least at the 940 mark, because I feel like I touch on a lot of the things folks criticize me for. Also, just to defend myself a little bit, I will take accountability, but the whole internet dolphin hate thread was a thing long before me. That didn't start with me. Some of y'all are giving me way too much power by saying I single-handedly did that. I've always said that the facts, as far as I'm concerned, are true, and if they're not and I get something wrong, I feel like over the years I've shown that I have no problem coming out and correcting it. At the same time, if I call something like a Water Weinstein or a C Cosby, that doesn't mean I actually, like you gotta know that I don't actually think dolphins should be persecuted.
Oh, is he talking about like the dolphin rape caves? I thought that was a myth. Is that actually true? Dolphin? Because I remember at one point I thought it was true, and then I thought I read that it was a myth. Dolphin rape caves? Controversial art installation? What? The plot thickens? What the fuck is this? What the f... What? What the f... That is creepy as... Yeah, I could totally see why this is controversial. That is really weird. Okay. The photograph... Okay, no, I'm not interested in that. The phrase often in the internet describes the myth that dolphin drags humans into underwater caves for sexual assault. While marine biologists have documented... Okay. So, I believe that it's true that gangs of young male dolphins will rape female dolphins. I think the myth was that dolphins were taking, like, humans into rape caves, and that was not true. While marine biologists have documented male bottlenose dolphins form gang-like alliances to forcibly herd and mount females, there is no scientific evidence of rape caves where they take humans. Okay, yeah. But I would be surprised if he mentioned it about humans. He was probably talking about it in the context of them raping other dolphins. But I don't know.
It's the full extent of the law. But I can understand the other side. Because, like, imagine you're a scientist or a marine biologist, and every time you log online, you see people saying dolphins are evil, dolphins deserve to die, all dolphins are fists, and for every, like, 10 people that say that, maybe 3 or 4 link one of my videos. Replay that interaction enough times, and of course, eventually you would just think, oh yeah, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, fear-mongering. So that's why the last couple of years, I don't know if y'all have noticed, but I've tried to be more careful with the way I frame these videos. I'm still gonna get my jokes off, that's just how I talk. I'm pretty sure I call this an Ice Cube missile crisis. But that's why I've been wanting to say this, specifically in this video. I've always been fascinated by leopard seals, especially the aspects that make them dangerous. In fact, whenever I'm emphasizing how dangerous an animal is, it's coming from a place of admiration. At the same time, they already get demonized crazy, so you do have to be careful with how you walk that line.
Gotta admire the game.
I think there's a middle ground where you can be entertaining enough to be an entry point for people to be interested in zoology, while also being fair to the animal. And I think it's also fair to ask for a little bit of grace whenever I'm calling something like a threat to humanity. But I'll say it again, dolphins, chimps, hippos, otters, sea leopards, and all others aren't evil. They're just animals trying to make it to the next day without the human privilege of morality. But that's gonna do it for this video. Drink water, hug your mother, don't touch seals, and I'm gonna see y'all in the next one.
Ooh, I like that, is it a trumpet? There's supposed to be like a lot of like jazz festival month or week or something coming up soon, and I've been looking forward to it. But I need to find out where they're playing it, because I want to check out some of these jazz bands when they come into town.
There is no animal that's gotten more green lights from God than a bulletproof, sawtooth, predatory sledgehammer with hyperintelligence.
Crocodiles, huh? Okay. Alright, let's switch it up. Let's find something else to react to. Actually, I want to hear some, Dromund Kaas. I want to hear some lore about Dromund Kaas.
There are places in the galaxy where history lingers. Worlds where the past is not merely remembered, but imprinted. Burned into the very soil. Whispered by every shadow. Carried on every storm.
You know what? I like this guy. We're gonna subscribe to him. Probably watch other his videos in the future. Friend of the stream, Stupendous Wave. Please subscribe to him if you're into this kind of stuff, if you're a nerd like me.
One such place is a city, not Coruscant, the shining heart of the Republic, not Korriban, the ancient tomb world of the Sith, but a metropolis raised in secret, shrouded in eternal storms, and forgotten for centuries. Kaas.
Oh, that's the other thing about this planet too, is the part of the lore is that it like eternally has like crazy thunder, force vortex storms all the time. I do not remember this part of the map. What the hell? Is this new?
City. Once it was the greatest Sith capital ever built, a dark reflection of Coruscant itself, a functioning metropolis of millions where Sith Lords ruled openly, where citizens lived and worked beneath the watchful eye of the Emperor and his Dark Council, and from its spires, fleets were launched, armies were raised, and wars were planned and won that would shake the very balance of the galaxy and the Force. And yet today, Kaas City is nothing more than ruins. It stands as a symbol of both the power and the fragility of the ancient Sith. A city.
Kaas City Trick, Kaas City Trick. You guys ever watch Rap City back in the day when I was younger? This might be like a middle school thing. I don't know if I don't think it's around anymore. But I used to watch Rap City. I forgot when it came on. I don't know if it came on like right after school or if it was on during the hours that I was at school, and I would watch it when I was homesick. But yeah, it was like on BET. If I remember correctly, it was on BET. Maybe it was VH1, and it would just be like, it was basically like all for like rap related stuff. Oh wait, I just realized I don't even know if I could play stuff like this on here because of copyright. No, I probably can't. Rap City intro. Let's do the intro fast. No. Not the era that I was listening to it. 1998. No, this would have been in the 2000s. Wasn't that one. No. Alright, I'm not gonna find it, but you get the idea. They'd have like rappers on, they have like new songs that would release and stuff like that be played on there. It was pretty cool.
Anyways. A city that rose from desperation, thrived in secrecy, and fell into silence. Not conquered by any Jedi, not burned by the Republic, but undone by the very forces that created it. To understand Kaas City is to understand the nature of the Sith, their endurance, their brilliance, their cruelty, and their inevitable self-destruction. In this exploration, we will trace the city's entire arc. First, the odyssey that brought the shattered Sith survivors to a forgotten colonial world, and the dark rituals that transformed it into a fortress of storm. I don't remember this place at all. I've been on this planet so many times. Then, the rise of the city itself, a sprawling metropolis that reveals the Sith society and what it would look like at its height. And finally, its fall to ruin, a haunting reminder that even without Jedi intervention, the Sith will always turn their greatest creations to dust. The Odyssey and the Exile. The story of Kaas City begins not in triumph, but in ashes. The Great Hyperspace War ended not in a stalemate, not in an uneasy truce, but in annihilation. The Republic, victorious after a desperate struggle, vowed that the Sith would never threaten them again. The Jedi too saw no reason to show mercy now. What followed was not a retreat or an exile. What followed was a purge. The combined forces of the Republic and the Jedi descended on the Sith homeworlds. Korriban, Ziost, every colony that they could reach. Entire cities.
Okay, so this happens before this game, right? Which is that the Jedi and the Sith had a war. The Jedi, you know, kicked them the fuck out, get out of here. So the Sith had to establish like a new base of operations. That's basically what he's describing here.
Raised. Right? Populations numbered in the millions were slaughtered.
I'm gonna raise my desk up. I have a standing desk, and I like these because you get sit for too long and it becomes, you know, uncomfortable. So you switch into a standing position and, you know, work out your legs, stretch out your joints, especially for an old man like myself.
monuments and temples that had stood for centuries left in ruin. It was one of the greatest genocides in the history of the galaxy, and for the first time, the Sith were not predators, they were prey. It is often described in broad strokes that the Sith fled, or went into hiding, but the truth is far more brutal. They were hunted, their ships pursued into deep space, their strongholds rooted out and destroyed one at a time. Sith who lingered too long on a world were exterminated, their bloodlines severed, their knowledge lost. For the first time, the Sith were not merely weakened, they were truly beaten. Yet, even in defeat, the Sith would not yield. From the ashes rose one figure who would reshape their destiny, Tenebrae, the Dark Lord who would later become known as Emperor Vitiate. More than any other Sith, Vitiate understood that survival required patience. Where others would have scattered, hiding in small enclaves or seeking revenge in futile strikes, Vitiate had a vision of consolidation. He gathered the survivors, drew to those who would follow, and commanded them to abandon what remained of their broken empire. This was not the proud Sith march of old, it was a flight into the unknown. For 20 years, the shattered remnants of the Sith undertook a desperate odyssey across the galaxy's uncharted frontiers. The journey was a brutal one. Treacherous hyperspace lanes shredded ships as they navigated paths no one had charted in millennia. Beasts of impossible scale lurked in the void, preying on stragglers. On world after world, the Sith attempted to establish footholds, only to be discovered and hunted again by Republic forces still scouring the galaxy for any survivors. Every step of the way, their numbers dwindled. The Sith, once feared for their unrelenting power, found themselves constantly on the edge of extinction. They had always believed in their destiny to dominate, but for those 2 decades, their only destiny was now survival. And then they found it. A world long forgotten. A fragment of their ancient empire lost to memory. Dromund Kaas. The Forgotten World. In the ancient empire, Dromund Kaas had been nothing more than a colonial holding of the old Sith Empire. It was not sacred like Korriban, nor central like SWTOR. It was a frontier outpost, a source of resources, and pretty much little else. When the Republic crushed the Empire, Dromund Kaas was abandoned, and its hyperspace routes obscured. In the centuries that followed, it slipped deeper into obscurity, erased from galactic memory. To the Sith exiles, its obscurity was its greatest strength. Remote, hidden deep within the treacherous space, Dromund Kaas became the perfect sanctuary. Here, Emperor Vitiate declared that the Sith would rebuild. The survivors descended into the jungles of the world and established a small settlement there. At first, it was little more than a refugee camp, a desperate effort to endure. But Vitiate was not content with mere survival. He was shaping not only a refuge, but the foundation of a reborn empire. But next came the corruption. Dromund Kaas became more than just a hiding space. It became a world forged in the image of the Emperor's will. Its storms cloaked it from detection. Its dangers shielded it from intrusion.
I realize that. That's cool. I knew the whole part about it being like constantly engulfed in a storm. That makes sense that they would engulf it in a storm in order to hide its signature from the Jedi. It's a cool little backstory.
And its growing aura of dark power served as both fortress and symbol. And at the center of the storm, the settlement grew. The Sith survivors dug deeper into the jungles, cutting through vines and stone to lay the first foundations of what would become Kaas City. At first, it was small clusters of shelters, then districts, then sectors. As the decades raged on, the settlement swelled with new arrivals, Sith drawn from across the remnants of their people, slaves brought to work the land, merchants willing to risk the storms for profit. Slow, inexorably, the small jungle outpost began to grow into a metropolis. But from its very birth, the city was different from any Sith city that had ever come before. Korriban had been a necropolis, a graveyard of tombs. SWTOR had been a capital of old power, ceremonial,
Never heard that term before, a necropolis.
Dromund
Kind of
Kaas,
cool
though,
idea.
was something new. Born in exile, cloaked in storms, and fueled by the Emperor's corruption, it was a city forged in secrecy and survival. There was no mere refuge here. This was the seed of vengeance. And as the city began to rise, so too did the power of the Sith who had fled into the shadow. From the brink of extinction, they were about to transform into the greatest threat the galaxy had ever seen. It stood as the living heart of the reconstituted Sith Empire, the base from which fleets launched, wars were planned, and vengeance against the Republic was made into a reality. But what made the city remarkable was not only its function as a military stronghold, it was a metropolis. a vast, high-functioning society under Sith rule where millions of beings lived, worked, and endured beneath the shadow of the dark side. The structure of the city. At its core, Kaas City was divided into 6 great hubs, districts that reflected the Empire's complexities. Each hub was more than a simple administrative zone. They were layers of a functioning city where day-to-day lives of Sith citizens unfolded under the control.
I like that little, like thematic motif there, because that whole like 6-sided kind of idea there, it ties into the Empire and the Sith in like the Star Wars movies. Because if you look at like the logo for the Empire in the original movies, it's a hexagon. And so that it's kind of cool that them designing the city around that idea of having like 6 districts kind of ties in, and without even having to like say, oh, this is like the connection we're making in it or anything, you can just kind of like make those connections on your own, kind of have the idea that like, okay, maybe that might have influenced kind of the development of the Sith over time and the Empire over time, right?
Full of their masters. Hub 1, the closest to the Imperial Citadel, where ministries of state functioned. Here, bureaucrats, officers, and Sith aides managed the logistics of the Empire. This was the face of the Sith Order. Hub 2 dominated by barracks and command centers. Soldiers marched in formation, officers shouted orders, and war machines moved through its squares. Hub 3, the Ministry of Travel and its sprawling complexes. Here, civilians and merchants navigated the bureaucracy of moving in and out of the storm-wrapped world. It was here where the Empire's isolation was carefully controlled. Hub 4 and 5, spaceports, markets, and industrial sectors. Merchants sold supplies, smugglers thrived under Sith patronage, and laborers, many of them enslaved, maintained the infrastructure of the city. Hub 6, residential quarters, where Imperial citizens, families, and even low-ranking Sith apprentices lived in tightly controlled districts. Each hub reflected a piece of Sith society. Together they formed something greater, a city that was both a capital and a living machine of Imperial order. But what of the Citadel? At the city's heart loomed the Imperial Citadel, a monolith.
I think that's also supposed to be part of like the design philosophy and ideology, is that hexagon 6 is supposed to function, or supposed to remind you of like a hub, like a machine hub, and the idea that the Empire, their philosophy is to have society regimented into almost like cogs in a machine, you know? It's a little bit sterile, it has like a lack of kind of that humanity to it, just a machine, you know?
Thick structure of black.
You see that in Andor too, it comes up in Andor too, like when they're building the little parts for the Star Destroyer or whatever, it's a little 6-sided thing, it kind of looks like the logo for the Empire. And then the actual prison itself, is it 6-sided? I could be wrong about that.
Stone and metal. To those who gazed upon it, it was a symbol of Sith dominance, unshakable, immovable, towering above the sprawling city. Within the Citadel, power was concentrated into 2 centers. The Emperor himself, veiled in secrecy, a godlike figure whose presence few ever encountered. Then there was the Dark Council, 12 Sith Lords each presiding over a sphere of influence, military, strategy, intelligence, logistics, and so on. For the average citizen, the Citadel was untouchable. Few entered, and fewer ever exited. But its shadow dominated every street of the city, both physically and symbolically. It reminded all who lived there that the Sith did not merely command armies, they commanded life itself. But what was daily life like there? It is easy to imagine a Sith capital as a place of constant bloodshed and duels in the streets, and while fear was ever present, Kaas City was a functioning society. This is partially why I wanted to explore it in this video. It had rhythm, a pulse, and a way of life that sustained millions of Sith. For civilians, Imperial citizens lived under strict order. Families raised children in residential sectors, workers filled the bureaucratic ministries, and merchants kept the markets alive. They lived with a degree of stability, so long as they all obeyed. Then you had the slaves and the laborers, the foundation of the city's infrastructure. They maintained the streets, harvested the food, and served in households. Their lives were harsh, but their suffering was hidden beneath the order of the city. Then you had the merchants and the smugglers. Despite its storms, Kaas City was a hub of commerce. Weapons dealers, spice runners, and black market trades thrived here, their profits taxed and regulated by Sith officials. The city's spaceports were alive with constant activity. But then we have the military. Soldiers drilled daily in the barracks of Hub 2. The city resounded with the march of boots, the hub of speeders, and the presence of war machines. Kaas City was not only a metropolis, it was a garrison. Then you had the actual Sith. Lords, apprentices, and acolytes walked the city's streets. Their presence commanded fear. They trained in academies, schemed in hidden chambers, and vied for influence within the Dark Council. For an ordinary citizen, life in the city was a balance of opportunity and terror. Advancement was possible through loyalty and service. Failure could mean enslavement or death. It was an atmosphere of fear and order. The city was unlike Coruscant in one crucial way though. Where Coruscant thrived on diversity and light, Kaas City thrived on fear and control. Every district was patrolled, every ministry was tightly regulated, the Emperor's secret police rooted out dissenters. The very storms above seemed to echo the will of the Sith Empire, a reminder that even nature itself bent to their command. And yet, within this oppression, there was stability. Crime was punished harshly, order was maintained. Merchants found profit, civilians built lives. The city functioned not in spite of Sith dominance, but because of it. Kaas City proved that the Sith were capable of more than destruction. They could build, they could govern, they could sustain a society, not one simply built on liberty or compassion, but one built on hierarchy, discipline, and fear. It was from this city that the Sith rebuilt their galactic power. The Great Galactic War was launched from its spires, fleets poured from its spaceports, armies marched from its barracks. Entire campaigns were directed from the Imperial Citadel. At its height, Kaas City presided over half of the galaxy. Entire civilizations lived and died by the decrees that issued from its ministries. The Emperor's voice, spoken through the Dark Council, reached every corner of the Empire. Kaas City was not simply a simple city itself. It was the dark heart of civilization, a mirror of Coruscant. It was a city that rose from desperation, thrived in secrecy, and presided over an empire that once ruled the galaxy. But as with every Sith creation, its greatness carried with it seeds of its own undoing. The story of its fall is not one of fire or conquest. The Republic did not storm its walls. The Jedi did not burn its citadels. Kaas City crumbled in silence, undone not by enemies, but by the Sith themselves. The key to its downfall began with the Emperor's withdrawal. The man who had given Kaas City its form and its storms, who had shaped the very world through ritual, began to vanish. Emperor Vitiate, whose patience and wisdom had rebuilt the Sith, withdrew from its throne. His ambitions had turned inward, towards ritual of immortality and godhood. For centuries he obsessed over consuming entire worlds, bending life itself to his will. Kaas City, once the seat of power, was reduced to a staging ground for his greater designs. Without the Emperor's presence, the Dark Council grew in influence. But where he had been a unifying figure, the Council was a nest of rivals. Ambition clashed with ambition. Spheres of influence warred in secret. And though the city still functioned, the cracks beneath its surface widened. It was a slow fracturing. The Great Galactic War and the conflicts that followed drained the Sith. Campaigns burned resources faster than they could be replenished. Worlds seceded. Rebellions flared. The city remained its capital, but its lifeblood weakened. The 6 hubs that had once thrummed with activity began to strain under the weight of instability. Ministries fractured with corruption. The military, once disciplined, was spread thin. Civilians endured stricter controls as resources dwindled. And yet, the most destructive force was not the Republic, it continued to be the Sith themselves. The Dark Council's endless scheming, assassination, and betrayal left the Empire paralyzed. For every victory won in war, another was lost to Sith.